This space seemed boundless, stretching endlessly into a bleak, gray horizon. Suspended in the air were dozens of glowing cubes, reminiscent of aquarium tanks, each containing a group of recently captured individuals. Liu Yun's cube was filled with his entire university class. Due to a bug in the system, he was the only male, while the remaining 29 were all females, including their counselor. Every single one of them looked like a protagonist straight out of a novel. As Counselor Ku Yun desperately tried to calm everyone, a sharp scream pierced the air. Someone pointed toward the sky. Out of nowhere, a screen appeared, covering everyone's field of vision. At the screen's center sat a massive white rabbit, resembling a giant stuffed toy. Its blood-red eyes glimmered ominously, a carrot clutched in its furry paws. It towered over everyone, taking a loud, deliberate bite. The crunch echoed unnervingly, and as it swallowed, it let out an audible burp. Then, in a saccharine, childlike voice, it spoke, but the sweetness was laced with a sinister edge that made hairs stand on end. "The rules are simple," it began. "Each glowing cube represents a tribe. You're all about to be transported to an island, where survival is your only goal. If you die for real. Each of you will awaken to a specific profession. It could be a warrior, a chef, or maybe just a completely useless liability. 3 months later, a headcount will be conducted. Tribes with the highest populations will receive rewards. Those with fewer members will face consequences." Liu Yun felt his heart sink. The malice woven into the rules was blatantly clear. Falling behind in numbers meant punishment, inherently motivating tribes to actively eliminate members of other groups. This wasn't just a survival game. It was a countdown to carnage, driven by the rules themselves. The rabbit leaned closer to the screen, its fluffy face magnified to a grotesque degree, its crescent-shaped eyes narrowing with eerie delight. It offered one final rule. There are no laws on the island. No police. No morality. No restrictions. Murder, robbery, bullying, anything goes, and nothing would be considered a crime. This, the rabbit pronounced, is the ultimate survival game. The women's faces turned ghostly pale. Liu Yun didn't look at them. His focus was on the faces in the other cubes. The gazes trained in their direction were already changing. The rules weren't over yet. Each tribe required a leader, a chief, who would venture onto the island first. Alone, with no companions and no safety net, this leader would have to explore the island and establish a base before the rest of the tribe arrived. As soon as the chief was chosen, they would be transported instantly, left to face the unknown alone. A glowing voting screen appeared in front of each person. No one spoke. 29 flawless faces, each more beautiful than the next. All shared the same expression, dread. Being the chief was a death sentence. The first person on the island would be the first to face danger, exposed to violent threats without any preparation. No one wanted the job. Liu Yun took a deep breath, turning to face them. His gaze swept across their anxious faces. "I'll be the chief," he declared. For a moment, the group was silent. Then, Shu Qianxue, the one closest to Liu Yun, pushed her way to the front. She was probably his best friend in the class. Raising her eyes to meet his, her voice trembled with disbelief. "Are you crazy?" she blurted. Liu Yun didn't respond immediately. He knew exactly what he was doing. He also knew their greatest threat wasn't the wild beasts lurking on the island or any potential disparity in professions. It was the hostile stares from the other cubes. Their class needed a chief, yes, but even more so, they needed a reason to avoid becoming easy prey from day one. The real question wasn't whether he could fulfill the role, it was whether he could handle the sheer weight of it. Even he wasn't sure of the answer. In the dense jungle of the island, Liu Yun now stood alone, surrounded by the unfamiliar shadows of towering trees. Just a minute ago, he had been in the cube with his classmates. Now, he was the first to be teleported, flung into this desolate wilderness. He had volunteered for this. Among a class of 29 women, it was inevitable he'd be chosen as chief. But the decision to be the very first carried over to this mysterious island. That was entirely his own choice. Opportunity required boldness, and this was his gamble. In survival scenarios, securing the best settlement spot was often more valuable than any weapon. Before he could act, a system notification appeared before his eyes. "Congratulations. You have been elected as the chief of Tribe 01. Due to your bravery as the first to arrive on the island, and the unique composition of your tribe, sole male member, you have been granted an exclusive SSS class chief blessing, endless vitality. SSS class. When Lu Yun saw those 3 letters, his brain momentarily went blank. Then, as the details of the blessing unraveled, his disbelief took a sharp turn into sheer confusion. It boosted his ability to attract females, enhanced kidney function to unprecedented levels, provided both parties with random rewards for each life bond formed, and could even unlock rare professions for the females bound to him. For 3 full seconds, Lu Yun stood frozen. This wasn't just a survival game mechanic. This was, without a doubt, a harem narrative dressed up in the guise of a survival game. But it was an SSS class blessing. In the context of a survival game, that kind of benefit was unimaginable. 29 women, 29 potential bonds, 29 opportunities for rare professions. The potential of this team was limitless. He had no choice but to use it, and he needed to act quickly. Meanwhile, back at the screen, the other cubes were hurling jeers at him. Comments like "reckless idiot" and "bookworm who doesn't know better" were among the more polite remarks, alongside phrases targeting the group of women he'd left behind, words filled with crude implications. It was clear, if Lu Yun died, those girls would be nothing more than sitting ducks. Xia Jin stood in front of the screen, her fists clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. She thought Lu Yun had been too impulsive, that he should have let someone else scout the terrain first and gather intel. She wasn't wrong, but Lu Yun was already on the island. There was no turning back now. Closing his eyes, he stilled himself, letting his senses interpret his new surroundings. After about a minute, he detected something, a faint shift in the wind. To his left, the air carried a slight damp, decayed wood scent, likely a lowland area. To his front right, there was a subtle sound of wind cutting off, suggesting a clearing where the tree cover thinned out. The island's mysteries remained completely unknown. But Lu Yun had no time to waste. He needed to find a spot and secure their base immediately. Lu Yun's legs were starting to feel heavy. He rested his hands on his knees, gasping for air. The beach stretched endlessly beneath his feet, and behind him were 2 beachfront wooden cabins he had intentionally given up on. Cabins that had already been claimed by other team captains. He had walked away without a second glance. In the observation stance, someone had already run the numbers on his behalf. If he kept running, there was an 80% chance he'd push his body past its limits, and only a 5% chance he'd find a better spot. It was a losing gamble by any measure, so much so that even the spectators had mostly stopped worrying about him. But Lu Yun was not acting impulsively. His judgment stemmed from a sound premise. The class was predominantly female, and combat strength was their glaring weakness. Even the best wooden cabin along the open shore had a critical flaw. Being surrounded on all 4 sides meant potential incoming threats from every direction. In a fight, they simply didn't have the manpower to guard every angle. What Lu Yun sought wasn't a suitable location. He was looking for a position where the enemy could only attack from one direction. Given that requirement, the typical beachfront was completely inadequate. 3 hours earlier, as he'd stepped onto the sand, he had relied on subtle cues like the faint rhythm of the waves. This world had only just begun, yet his senses were already more acute than they'd ever been. His lung capacity seemingly boosted, the kind of stamina that allowed him to run for ages before even starting to feel winded. He suspected this was the effect of his SSS grade ability activating, though he didn't yet fully understand how it worked. But he did know one thing. He hadn't yet hit his physical limit. Meanwhile, the spectators in the observation stands were losing patience. Some began sitting down, no longer glued to the screens. The excitement among the girls, who had earlier cheered at the prospect of beachfront real estate, was now fading fast, their enthusiasm nearly extinguished. Only Shu Qianxue kept her eyes fixed on the screen. When someone whispered and asked her what Lu Yun was searching for, she admitted she didn't know, but still said she trusted him. Even as the words left her mouth, she wasn't sure she fully believed them herself. On the screen, Lu Yun started running again. After another hour and a half of relentless effort, he came to a sudden halt. Before him stood a sheer cliff, with a solitary wooden cabin perched at its summit. There was only one steep pathway leading up. Just one. This meant that no matter how many enemies approached, the point of attack would always be from a single direction. The cliff's height provided a commanding view, with the ocean at its back for retreat and water nearby for sustenance. All he had to do was fortify that uphill path. There was no need to split forces to defend any other angle. This was the kind of location he had been searching for. When he was just 50 meters away from the cabin, Lu Yun's legs finally gave out. It wasn't mere exhaustion. His legs completely stopped responding, as though disconnected from his brain. His knees buckled, and he collapsed face first onto the slope with a heavy thud. His legs felt like lifeless wooden logs. No amount of punching or slapping could coax even the faintest sensation back into them. Lying there, staring at the cabin just within reach, Lu Yun made the most humiliating decision of his life. He started crawling. His fingernails dug into the dirt, his elbows grinding against the rough, uneven surface as he dragged himself forward inch by inch. Blood seeped onto the ground, but he didn't stop. 1 meter, then another. He clawed his way closer. On the other side of the screen, 29 pairs of eyes were glued to him. Not a single person spoke. Later, the girls would admit that it was in that moment they truly came to understand what it meant to feel safe. Lu Yun finally pulled himself inside the cabin, using his last ounce of strength to tap the button that triggered the contract. A flash of light. In the next instant, 29 girls materialized inside the cabin. None were wearing armor. The entire room was a vision of springtime beauty, so dazzling it seemed to make the very air shimmer. Shu Qianxue reacted first. She threw herself forward, wrapping her arms tightly around the slumped Lu Yun, shouting his name through sobs. Several other girls rushed over as well, creating a chaotic, tearful scene. Buried amidst them, Lu Yun's raspy voice eked out a reminder with his remaining breath. "You guys are wearing nothing." The room exploded into chaos. Screams filled the air. The girls scrambled to cover themselves and darted toward the door, their panic making the scene 3 times more chaotic than before. Shu Qianxue hesitated to let go, but could feel the limpness of Lu Yun's body. It was as if he'd melted into a puddle. In the end, she couldn't bring herself to release him. She awkwardly straightened up, her face burning hot enough to cook an egg, trying to feign nonchalance. "What's the big deal? You think my figure's not good enough for you?" Lu Yun, after a moment's thought, replied weakly. "It's plenty good, but it'll cause an uprising." Shu Qianxue froze for 2 seconds, her expression darkening from red to crimson before gently lowering him against the wall. Then she stood and hurried out, leaving behind a parting shot. "I looked at you as a brother, and you're over there thinking about revolting." Watching her retreat in a fluster, Lu Yun managed a faint smile. If he'd felt nothing, now that would have been weird. This gamble of his, worth every drop of blood. Outside, Shu Qianxue leaned against the wooden wall, her chest still heaving. Before she could fully compose herself, she was swarmed by a group of girls, their faces brimming with curiosity. They bombarded her with questions: what he felt like, what he smelled like, and why her ears were so red if she claimed it was nothing significant. The more she tried to explain, the more muddled it became, until finally, she angrily shoved them aside in frustration. Molin, a popular influencer, stood a little further away. Her eyes carried a glimmer of something that lingered even as she spoke softly. "He's always been handsome. But today, I realized he's reliable too." No one disagreed. The girls exchanged glances, but no one said anything, likely because they all understood what she meant. Back in the cabin, the mood shifted. Baiyu approached slowly, kneeling before Lu Yun. Her expression was far calmer than anyone else's, a level of composure that seemed unnatural for someone her age. When she finally spoke, her tone was analytical, as though dissecting a strategy. "What you did was emotionally moving, but the risk-to-reward ratio was negative. If we were to lose the only adult male in this team, our overall survival probability would drop by 39%. She paused. Her voice remained even, but an unmistakable weight hung in the air. "As our captain, I expect you to make more calculated decisions moving forward." Lu Yun didn't respond immediately. Baiyu had been specially recruited for her exceptional talent and had volunteered to transfer into this particular class. She wasn't like the other students. From the very beginning, she'd arrived with purpose. And now, these blunt words of hers, while superficially just an evaluation, hinted at something more deliberate. She was essentially telling him that she had been keeping a mental tally on him this whole time. In this team, the most difficult person to deal with wasn't always the most emotional one. Baiyu was a unique individual. From the very first moment she was thrust into that strange alternate dimension, she hadn't panicked. Not for a second. It was as if her brain was running on an entirely different operating system, one that didn't bother processing emotions, only assessing efficiency. So when Lu Yun couldn't immediately calm himself in the face of their current situation, Baiyu's reaction wasn't avoidance, nor embarrassment. She simply acted. She extended her hand with a decisiveness that left no room for hesitation. Her logic was crystal clear. Ascension could solve the problem. To ascend required time, and time equated to survival odds in this place. Every minute wasted was essentially costing another life. No hesitation, no second-guessing. She just acted. Everyone in the room froze, stunned. Kuyun had just taken a step out of the room, but instinctively stumbled back, realizing something wasn't right. When he pushed open the door, his voice cracked mid-yell. "Stop! Stop! Stop! Stop!" Baiyu, interrupted, didn't retract her hand, but instead looked up at Kuyun with a sharp glare. Her expression was one of genuine dissatisfaction, and even the energy in her restrained hand conveyed this emotion clearly. "Give me a valid explanation," she demanded. Kuyun took a deep breath, struggling to piece his words together. He mumbled something about modern societal norms, that without a confirmed relationship, such actions were inappropriate between a man and a woman. Baiyu listened quietly and then rebutted him with 2 points. First, she couldn't comprehend the logic behind needing a confirmed relationship to act. Second, they were no longer in modern society. With those words, the two turned their eyes toward Lu Yun. At this moment, Lu Yun was completely out of it. His eyes were blank, his mind had long since gone offline, and he was clearly incapable of presenting any coherent objection. Kuyun opened his mouth to argue, but found no words. Left with no choice, he resorted to shutting down the conversation with a firm, commanding tone. Baiyu, however, stood her ground. She stated that every minute Kuyun spent stopping her was dropping the survival odds for the entire group. Every minute that they moved faster could mean fewer deaths in the future. And then she delivered the cutting conclusion. "Right now, you're wasting time. You're killing people." Her voice was devoid of feeling, cold, precise, and overwhelmingly direct. Kuyun stood frozen, unable to form any response. Then, as if pondering something new, Baiyu added, "If you had more experience than me, maybe you'd know how to make up for this lost time." Kuyun's face flushed crimson all the way to the tips of his ears. A few minutes later, he quietly left the room, his expression indescribably conflicted. No one in the room tried to dig into what had just happened. One by one, they avoided eye contact and kept their heads low. When everyone gathered again, Baiyu re-entered, having used broadleaf plants to cover her body. They began their meeting, the room heavy with an unspoken agreement not to press further. Lu Yun, now in a strangely composed state, spoke more calmly than usual. He got straight to the point, openly sharing the details on his system panel. The base required wood and stone for upgrades. The faster they could upgrade, the safer they would be. Everyone had to gather materials immediately. No one argued. They all understood that in a situation like this, cooperation was the only way to survive. But a practical concern arose almost instantly. Xia Jin asked what many were surely thinking. "How are we supposed to cut down trees? We don't have any tools." Before the words had even fully landed, a girl raised her hand shyly. "I have an axe," she said. When Kuyun turned his system panel toward Lu Yun to show him something, Lu Yun impulsively grasped his teacher's wrist. It was an unconscious reaction, but it startled the onlookers, especially the girls. This typically composed and stoic young man, often described as steady as a rock, had a fire in his eyes now that was almost overwhelming. The reason? Experience amplification. On its own, the term might not sound earth-shattering. Something supportive, meant to help others, right? Kuyun himself seemed unsure of its potential, the slight confusion on his mature face suggesting he didn't fully grasp the weight of his own new abilities. But Lu Yun understood. In this fresh new world where they had to start from scratch, experience was everything. Combat skills, life skills, survival limits, all hinged on experience. And Ku Yun's ability acted as a booster for that single resource. At its current level, it could affect up to 2 people, increasing their experience gains by 30% for 2 hours, with a recharge time of 10 hours. 30% might not sound like much, but Lu Yun's mind was already racing. Gaining experience more quickly would allow him to tackle stronger challenges, which would bring in even more experience. That would lead to access to higher risk areas, returning even greater rewards. Layering Ku Yun's ability on top of that was like throwing fuel on the fire. This wasn't just linear growth, it was exponential. While others crawled up the mountain, Lu Yun would be hurtling downhill at breakneck speed. Ku Yun's skill wasn't simply supportive, it was a game-changing factor for the entire team's growth trajectory. Seeing Lu Yun react this way, Ku Yun's cheeks turned a light shade of pink. He gently pulled his hand away but felt some measure of relief. He wasn't dead weight, after all. The rest of the group, motivated by curiosity, began opening their system panels one by one, like unwrapping mystery gift boxes. Some laughed, others whispered prayers under their breath. Most discovered roles tied to resource gathering: farmers, cooks, medics. Basic warriors, blacksmiths, and dismantlers came next. These weren't extraordinary roles, but they were good enough to keep a fledgling settlement running. Out of 29 people, only 2 had unique classes. One of them belonged to Ku Yun, and the other. Everyone quickly started pressuring Lu Yun. "Come on, Chief, stop holding out. Show us what you've got." Lu Yun opened his system panel. Class: Spatial Manipulator, Unique Class. Unique. Not rare. Not special. Unique, meaning there was no other like it in the entire world. Passive ability: Spatial Awareness. Allows the user to perceive all changes within a 100-meter radius, independent of sight or sound, as if their very essence extended into the fabric of space itself. Initial skill: Spatial Mark. Mark any object, enabling instantaneous teleportation to the marked location at any time. Lu Yun froze for several seconds. It wasn't because he didn't grasp its power, he understood it all too well. Attacking, scouting, retreating, supporting, all of it could be done with this one ability. It could all be claimed in full. Projectiles could serve as teleportation anchors. In the face of danger, I could retreat instantly. If teammates became surrounded, I could leap in to rescue them. And this was just at level 1, the very beginning of my awakening. What this could evolve into later on, I didn't dare imagine yet. The spatial awareness skill had already given me a preview. In this brief moment of standing still, I could sense the faint rustling of the grass outside the dormitory door, the subtle shifts in the airflow in the hallway, and the 29 different breathing rhythms of the girls around me. All of it was captured simultaneously by a cold, unfamiliar, and pervasive sense of awareness. I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't hearing it. I was feeling it, the changes happening in this space itself. Spatial Manipulator, I murmured softly, naming the profession aloud. My voice was calm, but the girls' reactions shattered that calm immediately. "Do you need a girlfriend, Lu Bao? Please let it be me. I can totally be your loyal fangirl. Can I trade places with you somehow?" I smiled faintly but didn't respond. It wasn't modesty that kept me silent. It was because my mind was already turning to the next challenge. How could I combine these 2 abilities with Ms. Ku Yun's amplification effects? How could I use them to the fullest, so that, in the shortest possible time, I could ensure all 29 of them survived? I opened the chat channel, and the first message that popped up made my eyes narrow. Tribe 14's about to raid that hottie nest. Sign up fast if you want the chance to personally pick out a fresh one. The tone was as casual as if they were deciding what to have for dinner. This message laid bare the reality of this island's rules in an instant. There were no laws, no formal guidelines. The only thing that mattered was raw strength. The so-called hottie nest. That was our base. These girls, asterisk my teammates asterisk, were already being treated by outsiders as loot, openly advertised as commodities for the taking. I quietly memorized the poster's username, my expression calm. But behind that calm exterior was a cold fury, icy and unyielding. The other messages in the channel weren't any better. Some people were selling intelligence. Others were using women as bait to recruit henchmen. Still others were pretending to be under the command of a false god to gain attention. This fledgling micro-society on the island, less than a day old, had already devolved into primal savagery. Outside our makeshift wooden lodge, muffled gasps, and then a heavy silence told me that the girls had seen these messages too. Just then, a bold system announcement with a bright red rabbit icon popped onto the channel. "Hey there, folks. Bunny's friendly reminder. Zombie apocalypse will strike in 3 days. Hope you love this little event." And just like that, the message vanished. 3 days. I repeated it under my breath as my fingers unconsciously clenched into a fist. Time was never on our side, but now this shortage of time was directly tied to the slim odds of whether we'd live or die. Our grass-roofed huts leaked and offered no real shelter. We hadn't had time to upgrade them. On top of that, someone had now broadcast our location to the entire island, and a zombie horde was going to descend upon us in 3 days. Each of these problems alone was a crisis. Stacked together, they formed a catastrophe, a suffocating chokehold with no room to breathe. Outside the lodge, Lin Lu stared blankly at the translucent system interface in front of her. The fading sunlight cast long shadows on her face as an unbidden tear rolled silently down her cheek. "Sis, I want to go home," she whimpered softly. Her voice was tinged with a sob, the fear and frustration from the entire day pouring out like floodwaters breaking a dam. She threw herself into her sister Lin Wan's arms, her delicate frame trembling with quiet, restrained sobs. Just yesterday, the two of them had been minor internet celebrities, a duo of ballet-trained dancers, polished and graceful in front of a camera. Today, here on this desolate island, they were hauling logs while constantly watching their backs, fearing they might be hunted like prey. Lin Wan held her sister tightly, her voice steadying despite a slight tremor betraying her own fears. "Look at Lu Yun. He found us a base. Xiaojin's also grown so much stronger. Everyone's working hard to hold it together, so we will be okay too." She patted Lin Li's back softly but failed to conceal the glint in her eyes as she looked past her sister's head, staring toward the dense forest shadows. She didn't know what lurked out there, but she understood one thing very clearly. No matter the cost, her sister could not, must not, come to harm. Elsewhere, Xia Jin was gripping her blood-red longsword, feeling the sharpened, lethal energy it radiated. Under her strike, massive rocks split apart effortlessly. Her power had multiplied substantially compared to the day before. Having seen too much of humanity's cruelty, she had developed an unparalleled adaptability. That last shred of hesitation in her heart was severed the moment her blade bit into stone. Strength. On this brutal island, the only thing she could truly rely on was strength. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the girls began returning to camp one by one, gathering around a roaring bonfire. The flickering firelight cast warm, moving shadows on their faces. For once, the atmosphere seemed lighter. Small glimpses of laughter occasionally broke through the tension, free and fleeting. Standing at the tent entrance, I watched them joke and tease around the fire. But inside me, a heavy weight pressed steadily against my chest. I had been holding something back, keeping it to myself not out of a desire to withhold information, but because I simply didn't know how to say it. This system-designated title of Tribal Leader's Blessing was listed right there on my stat panel, SSS tier. 3 seemingly harmless letters next to a title that, on the surface, sounded grand. But the actual content? Every time I thought about it, my scalp tingled with dread. These were young women, just barely stepping into their 20s. Each of them, in their own way, harbored dreams about love. Out in the real world, most of them had plenty of admirers crushing on them from afar. And now they were all in my tribe. What I needed to say next would redefine their relationship to me. And it wouldn't be pretty. At that moment, Chun Xiaolin was in the middle of using me as the punchline for another one of her jokes. The following uproar of laughter managed to cheer up even Lin Wan momentarily. I stood there, waiting for the lilting waves of laughter to settle. Then, I walked closer to the fire and let my gaze travel slowly across every face illuminated by its glow, trying to lock this moment of relative peace in my memory. It was time to speak. Does anyone here know what Tribal Leader's Blessing actually means? A few murmured that they'd seen it mentioned in the chat channel. From what they knew, most tribal leaders' blessings only amounted to minor conveniences, like adjusting tribe temperature settings. Felt more like an observer than a participant in their group dynamics. But now, with that small, almost clinical smile, she managed to break through the tense atmosphere with a strange mixture of resolve and pragmatism. The group remained silent, their expressions a blend of shock, confusion, and perhaps a touch of relief that someone had stepped forward to address the unspoken. The sudden shift in momentum left them grasping for words, but none came immediately. Wait, comfortably breaking the stillness, Lu Yun raised his hand, his tone cautious but firm. Are you sure about this, White Feather? He used her nickname, a term that somehow softened her usually distant demeanor in the eyes of the group. White Feather, or Bai nodded matter-of-factly. Yes, I see no logical drawback to this decision. My objective aligns with the benefits that this connection could provide, both for myself and for the group. Her calculated response stirred a ripple of unease. For most people, this was an emotional decision wrapped in societal complexities, but for her, it seemed like just another item on her checklist. She wasn't second-guessing or hesitating like everyone else. Instead, she evaluated the situation entirely through the lens of utility and logic. The other girls exchanged glances, their faces flushed with words they couldn't say aloud. The discussion, or lack thereof, carried the weight of underlying tensions, unspoken agreements, and awkward realizations. Lu Yun felt like the air was growing heavier around him. It's not a science project. One of them, Shu Qianxue, blurted out, unable to hold back. She was known for her fiery personality, never shying away from speaking her mind, even in the face of discomfort. We're not automatons, Baiyu. This isn't something you just check off your to-do list. Baiyu turned to face her, her expression unreadable. Emotion merely clouds judgment, she replied calmly. This isn't about personal whims or feelings. It's about maximizing our chances of survival and achieving optimal outcomes. If our continued existence is dependent on making such choices, then it's irrational to delay. Her words, though logical, made the discomfort in the group become almost tangible. Survival was the ultimate priority, especially in this harsh, apocalyptic world. But the way Baiyu communicated her perspective felt cold, alien, and in stark contrast to the inner turmoil the rest of them were grappling with. She's right, Xia Jin interjected, her tone measured but carrying a weight of authority. Her ability to read the room and navigate difficult situations had always been her strength. Survival does come first, and sometimes we don't get to choose the terms. But it doesn't mean anyone should rush into something they're uncertain about. Baiyu's choice is her own, not an obligation and not an expectation for anyone else. The group quieted again, mulling over Xia Jin's words. They carried a grounding effect that restored some semblance of order to the emotionally charged atmosphere. Lu Yun let out a quiet breath as he shot Xia Jin a grateful glance. Her presence was like a stabilizing anchor when things threatened to fall apart. I'll say it again, Lu Yun added, his voice clearer this time. This isn't something anyone is forced to do. I'm not that kind of person, and our group isn't founded on that kind of expectation. Baiyu's decision is hers and hers alone, but there's no pressure here. His sincerity seemed to reassure some of the girls, though the undercurrent of tension remained. Baiyu, however, appeared completely unaffected by their emotions. She simply nodded again, crossing her arms as if signaling the discussion was over on her end. But, Shu Qianxue muttered softly, trailing off before she could articulate her thoughts further. Her grip on the hem of her sleeve tightened, a visible sign of her frustration with the situation, and perhaps with herself. No one else spoke up. The question Xia Jin had dared to ask, if anyone was willing, still loomed heavily over them, unanswered but for Baiyu's clinical response. It was a silent reminder that in a world stripped bare by survival, even the lines between personal and practical could blur. Lu Yun ran a hand through his hair, looking each of them in the eye. There was no denying the power inherent in his newfound ability, the SSS grade blessing that had elevated him from ordinary to extraordinary. But that power came with a cost, a responsibility he couldn't escape. He wasn't sure yet if it was a blessing or a curse. At last, Xia Jin finally broke the tense silence once more. All right, let's settle this for now, she declared, her tone firm enough to stop anyone from interjecting. We're all adults here, or close enough. Let's take some time to think about what this means, both for the group and individually. No one should feel rushed or coerced to make decisions tonight. A series of small nods followed, a reluctant agreement to move on from the night's discussion and let the issue rest. But rest wasn't likely to come easily for anyone. As the group dispersed and faces turned away from the dying firelight, the echoes of their unspoken thoughts and emotions lingered in the chill night air. For some, it was a time of confusion, for others, reflection. And for Bai Yu, who stood alone, her calm resolve remained unwavering. A stark reminder that survival demanded making choices, no matter how unconventional or uncomfortable they might be. Her smile was stunning, so captivating it left people momentarily dazed. "Thief," Shu Qianxue whispered softly, head lowered, almost as if talking to herself. Bai Yu ignored everyone's reaction and strode purposefully across the campfire towards Lu Yun. Her steps were steady, her direction unwavering. The flames illuminated her face, and the usually aloof girl seemed to radiate an entirely different aura. On this island, Bai Yu never did anything without a clear objective. So, when she stood on her tiptoes, the reaction from everyone was the same: stunned silence. Even Lu Yun froze. The sensation of lips brushing lasted only a few seconds. Bai Yu retreated swiftly, her movements crisp, as though completing a pre-planned routine. She then pursed her lips slightly and began analyzing the situation as if it were a scientific experiment. According to research, kissing is a prerequisite for mating. I studied beforehand and hope I didn't make any errors. She nodded to herself. The softness and moisture of the lips meet expectations. Preliminary assessments suggest sufficient release of endorphins and dopamine. She turned her gaze to Lu Yun, who was still rooted in place, eyes wide and unblinking, and added matter-of-factly, "Your reaction delay is longer than average." Noted. Lu Yun's brain, metaphorically speaking, seemed to be overheating. For the other girls standing around, processing what had just happened was no easy task. Some covered their mouths in shock, others blushed fiercely, and a few exchanged incredulous looks with their neighbors. Teacher Kuyun, standing nearby, appeared to be at a loss, lips trembling as if preparing to say something but unknowing where to begin. Bai Yu, unfazed by the chaos around her, delivered her conclusion calmly. Preliminary sensory feedback is positive. Further validation is recommended to confirm data reproducibility. And with that, she stood on her tiptoes once more. "Wait." Shu Qianxue abruptly stood up. There was a lot packed into that single wait. Years of convincing herself that calling Lu Yun her bro could suppress certain emotions. But Bai Yu's actions just moments ago had torn down whatever mental barriers she'd constructed. Bai Yu, however, didn't stop. This time, her kiss was more deliberate as she closed her eyes. A few seconds later, she pulled back again, turned to meet Shu Qianxue's gaze with her usual clear, unruffled expression, and asked, "Do you also wish to participate in this experiment?" Shu Qianxue met her gaze directly. She didn't turn away this time. Her back was straight, her face bright red, but her voice came out clear and firm. "I do. I want to kiss Lu Yun too." A collective gasp swept through the group. Her declaration landed with more force than the two kisses just moments prior. Chun Xiaolin involuntarily clutched at the arm of the girl next to her, mouth agape, while several others exchanged wide-eyed, shocked looks. Truly, this scene playing out felt over the top, even for a dramatic TV show. Lu Yun, meanwhile, felt as though she drifted into an alternate reality. Did my best friend just say she wants to kiss me? Bai Yu, ever pragmatic, addressed the situation efficiently. According to the first-come, first-served principle, you may reserve tomorrow night's experimental session. I don't want tomorrow night. I want tonight. Right now. Shu Qianxue stood her ground. Having lost her first kiss to Bai Yu already, there was no way she was surrendering her first moment without a fight. Bai Yu tilted her head slightly, her internal logic seemingly encountering a non-standard input. "Why? That's simple." Why left Shu Qianxue momentarily speechless. After 2 seconds of frantic thinking, she blurted out the excuse she had leaned on countless times before. "Because I'm Lu Yun's best bro. Brothers stick together. That makes me first in line as her bro." Silence fell over the group. The fire crackled in the stillness. "Bro first in line?" Bai Yu repeated the term, her expression momentarily deep in contemplation. Human social constructs often defied pure logic and reason. This must be one of those times. After several seconds, she nodded and stepped aside slightly. Why you accepted it? Just like that. Without hesitation, without suspicion, she solemnly announced in her ever-calm tone. Based on the supplementary social rule of bro first in line, tonight's experiment will proceed with Shu Qianxue and Lu Yun, while she herself would observe and take notes on the side. At that announcement, Chen Xiaolin burst into laughter, holding her stomach as tears welled up. Even Shu Qianxue looked momentarily dumbfounded. The excuse she had pulled out in a moment of panic had been fully embraced with utter seriousness. What's more, Bai Yu, true to her word, stepped back quietly, ready to observe as an impartial researcher. She really believed it. Now, the girl's eyes darted between Lu Yun and Shu Qianxue, filled with curiosity, bashfulness, and a hint of amused anticipation. Shu Qianxue's earlier bold determination seemed to deflate slightly, like a balloon with a slow leak. Yet despite her burning cheeks, she grabbed Lu Yun's hand, her steps firm, and led her decisively to the quietest corner of the house. Late into the night, the foliage-roofed shelter was pitch black, with only silvery moonlight seeping in through the cracks, tracing mismatched outlines of human forms on the ground. No one was asleep. Without phones or artificial light, the night had felt inexplicably long. But the real reason no one could sleep obviously wasn't the darkness. It's been 30 minutes. Why is it still quiet over there? A girl whispered excitedly to her bunkmate, her voice barely restrained. Why are you so worked up about this? Her neighbor feigned disinterest, but had already shifted to face the corner where Shu Qianxue and Lu Yun had disappeared into. Caught red-handed, the girl let out a soft, amused hee-hee under her breath. I'm not excited. I'm just fully invested in the live-action experience, you know? The hut grew quieter and quieter, the kind of quiet that felt deliberate. A few moments later, the first snore broke the silence. Then a second, a third. One after another, snoring began rippling through the room. Nearby, Bai Yu lay not far from Shu Qianxue's place, and she regretfully abandoned her plan to collect observational data. The lack of lighting rendered any visual input useless. Instead, she focused all her energy on utilizing her auditory sensors, trying to pick up meaningful signals from the ambient sounds. Shu Qianxue's guard began to gradually dissolve amidst the symphony of rising and falling snores around her. She quietly sat up, brushing aside the leaves that had covered her. The cool night air ran across her skin, bringing an involuntary shiver. She took a deep breath. Then, with a decisive and swift move, she turned and pinned Lu Yun beneath her. Their eyes met, illuminated by the faint moonlight. Leaning in close, her voice dropped to a low murmur, trembling slightly, but resolute with a newfound determination, as if bracing herself to take a leap of faith. Lu Bao, I want you to remember this. It's me who took the initiative here. Lu Yun didn't move. In the silvery light, he saw the faint blush spreading across her cheeks. Her figure, often admired from afar by countless others, was now right in front of him. The unique sweetness of her youthful scent mingled with a faint trace of sweat. Her breath came fast and warm, brushing against him. But instead of reacting hastily, he felt an irresistible urge to tease her. Qianxue, when did you start liking me? He asked, a playful lilt in his tone. The question hit Shu Qianxue like a jolt of electricity. Her whole body stiffened, her face turning an even brighter crimson. She snapped her head to the side, unwilling to let him witness the fiery embarrassment burning across her face. But at this point, there was no hiding. They had already come this far. Maybe it started the day I began calling you brother, she muttered, her voice muffled and tinged with a shy, nasally undertone. Calling you brother gave me an excuse. No one would think twice if I teased you or got close to you. Lu Yun had to hold back a laugh. That reasoning. Only Shu Qianxue could come up with something like that. He deliberately drew out his words, smirking as he pressed her further. Oh, so, tell me, my dear brother, what exactly is your plan for taking advantage of me? Before dawn fully broke, Lu Yun was abruptly woken by a barrage of mechanical notification sounds, more insistent than any alarm clock. Clan leader's blessing effect activated, random rewards being issued. Congratulations. You've received Lucky Wheel, permanent. Daily spin available, with rewards categorized into white, blue, purple, and gold tiers. Lu Yun stared at the message in silence. Permanent. Once a day? For a budding settlement. These words carried unimaginable weight. Lu Yun understood this better than anyone. The tribe's greatest limitation wasn't manpower or skills, it was resources. The rate of consumption far outpaced what they could gather, and there were never enough people to redistribute. A steady stream of resources, even random and on the lower end of value, could gradually provide the lifeline the tribe was so desperately lacking. Before he could fully process the implications, a second notification popped up. Detected life mating activity. Participants: Shu Qinxue, Medic, LV1. Career advancement opportunity triggered. New career paths unlocked. Please provide guidance for selection. A. Life Priest. Rare enhanced healing and purification abilities, with an aura granting continuous recovery to allies. Gains specialized boosts against undead and toxin class enemies. B. Destroyer. Rare significant physical enhancement, turning the individual into a close combat powerhouse. Abandons traditional weapons, using their body as a blade. Two options, neither of them trivial. The Life Priest would provide the tribe with a reliable and rare support role. Sustained healing combined with unique advantages against undead and toxins. Dangers seemingly ever-present in this unpredictable world. On the other hand, the Destroyer represented raw, unparalleled offense, transforming one person into a devastating force capable of obliterating any direct threat. Both options weren't just upgrades, they were game changers. But Lu Yun decided to leave the choice to Shu Qinxue. There was no rush. They could discuss it once she woke up. He turned his head to glance at her. At that moment, Shu Qinxue clung to him like a koala, her limbs wrapped around him in a firm grip. She slept soundly, her face betraying a faint, smug satisfaction. The memory of her bold yet clumsy actions the previous night, leading up to her tearful and breathless pleas for mercy, surfaced in Lu Yun's mind. Unable to resist, he leaned down and left a gentle kiss on her lips. She murmured softly, still fast asleep, tightening her hold on him. Carefully, Lu Yun disentangled himself from the warm, enticing trap she had unconsciously created. He stood, scanning the room around them. The first rays of sunlight spilled through, illuminating a chaotic scene of women sprawled out in various states of slumber. Judging by how deeply they slept, last night must have been anything but restful for most of them. As his gaze wandered, it caught on a particular figure lying on her side. Yi Shi. Her dark hair framed her face, and a small smile played at the corner of her lips, as though she were lost in a pleasant dream. Lu Yun's memories of Yi Shi were sharp, but far from pleasant. Not long after they had started school, Yi Shi had stood before a group of classmates, her voice dripping with coldness and disdain. Lu Yun, I hate you. Don't ever try to approach me again. He hadn't responded at the time, and from that day on, despite sharing a classroom, the two had remained as distant as strangers. But now, here she was, sleeping within his territory. As these thoughts swirled in Lu Yun's mind, Yi Shi's lashes quivered slightly, and she began to stir. She stretched lazily, the soft morning light casting a painterly glow on her figure, making her seem out of place in such a rugged setting. Her gaze gradually focused, landing squarely on Lu Yun. And then, Yi Shi had a secret, one she had never revealed to a single soul. She actually liked Lu Yun. That morning, she nearly let it slip. Half the others were still fast asleep when, in her drowsy haze, she heard familiar footsteps. Her conscious mind hadn't fully awakened, but her body moved reflexively. She stretched out her arms, her voice laced with an unguarded, sleepy softness as she called in his direction. Lu Bao, come give me a hug. Lu Yun froze on the spot. Did she just call him Lu Bao? And ask for a hug? This was the same girl who had once told him to stay far away from her. Now, she was reaching out for him like this? He thought, for a moment, that he was the one still dreaming, until he realized she was the one not fully awake. Then, someone beside her shifted, their arm accidentally brushing against Yi Shi. And just like that, reality came crashing back. Yi Shi blinked her eyes, her expression transitioning so smoothly it was as if flipping a switch. Her voice even shifted entirely. Sorry, Lu Yun. I just woke up groggy. Don't take it seriously. Lu Yun nodded without saying a word, turning around to find a place to set up his prize wheel. What he didn't know was that the moment his back was turned, Yeshi's composed facade completely shattered. Disappointment, guilt, and that creeping regret, the kind that comes when you've carefully kept your emotions in check for ages, but let it slip at the dumbest possible moment. Inside, she berated herself. Idiot, 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 over and over. She was afraid of him noticing the truth in her eyes, afraid of him rejecting her, and even more afraid of having to act like nothing ever happened after he turned her down. So, she made an extraordinary decision. She rallied all the girls who might become her competition. Under the banner of protecting class harmony, she proposed a pact. No one was allowed to pursue Lu Yun, and that included herself. She set the rules. She shut the door, and she stayed behind that door, still liking him from the other side. That's just how Yeshi operated, her way of solving things. Facing the possibility of rejection felt worse than locking away the chance for answers forever. Meanwhile, Lu Yun was lost in a completely different situation, staring at the brand new prize wheel in front of him. The rules of the wheel were simple. Spin once daily, receive a random prize. For levels of rewards, white for common, blue for uncommon, purple for rare, and gold for legendary. The probabilities were written plainly. White, 60%, blue, 30%, purple, 9%, and gold, a measly 1%. The biggest problem? No guaranteed pity system. As Lu Yun eyeballed the probability chart, memories of his gacha game experiences resurfaced, pulling 10 times in a row just to get useless junk. His lips couldn't help but twitch. While he brooded over the spin mechanics, a sudden weight pressed down on his back. Someone had jumped onto him, 2 arms snugly wrapped around his neck, and a playful, mischievous voice teased in his ear. Lu baby, daydreaming again? Need your little sis to help. Lu Yun sighed deeply, reached back to hook the bend of her knees, and plucked her off his back like she was light as a feather, placing her in front of him. Then he shot her a firm, unimpressed look. Linwan, stop pretending to be your sister. Linwan's eyes went wide, cheeks puffing out as she mimicked someone else's voice perfectly. I'm Lin Lu, your little sister Lin Lu. Did you nap too hard or something, Lu baby? Before he could counter, another voice floated over from the side, this one softer, carrying a hint of indulgence. What's going on, Lu Yun? Are you bullying my sister again? 2 identical faces. A perfectly choreographed switch. Most people would definitely fall for it. But not Lu Yun. He just stared calmly at the gentle sister for 2 seconds. Then, before she could react, reached out, pinched her cheek, and gave it a playful, firm squeeze. The flawless, big sister smile on Lin Li's face instantly cracked. Hunger does strange things to eyes. When someone starving sees the words food, it's not the usual excitement over a tasty meal. It's a primal, intense longing that grips them. Since yesterday, this group of girls had barely eaten anything substantial. They'd been surviving on bits of wild fruit and a few sips of plant juice, their endurance fueled solely by sheer willpower. So, when Lu Yun pointed toward the shimmering prize wheel and deliberately emphasized the word food, all the banter fell silent. Just one word. Nothing else mattered more. The prize wheel was a so-called clan leader's blessing reward. The rule was straightforward. Spin the wheel, test your luck. Whether it would actually yield food wasn't a guarantee, but it was the only shot they had right now. Then came the question, who would spin? Under normal circumstances, there might have been some polite back and forth about taking turns. But not now. The girls' empty stomachs served as a stark reminder of what a single spin could mean. Courtesy is a fine thing, but it doesn't hold up well when faced with the gnawing emptiness of hunger. Lin Lu didn't give anyone the chance to hesitate. She confidently strode forward, hands on her hips, chin held high, radiating a destined savior aura as she surveyed the group. Her reasoning was, unsurprisingly, impressive. She brought up her legendary fortune in games. First 10 pulls, 3 golds, 10 pull special event, 5 stars. It had become a near mythical reputation in their circle. Anywhere Lin Lu went, she carried that badge of pride. I'm Lin Lu, the lucky one with 10 pulls and 5 golds. Even if you just wanted to borrow an eraser, you'd hear that spiel first. Ridiculous as it was, no one there dared to claim their luck was better. After confidently waiting out the room's silent acknowledgement, Lin Lu nodded, clearly satisfied. She announced her bold declaration. If I don't pull something good, my sister Lin Wan and I will try to trigger the clan leader's blessing again for everyone. This announcement caused an uproar among the previously quiet group. Cheers and teasing calls erupted, filling the entire camp with their excitement. Lu Yun stood off to the side, a weary frown forming as he realized the girls didn't actually care much about the spin's results. They were far more eager to see Lin Lu eat her words. That said, Lin Lu was unpredictable. With her, anything might just be possible. Lin Lu had a particular gift. She could spout the most outrageous claims, but when she locked her bright, determined eyes on you, you'd find yourself nodding before you knew what happened. Lin Wan, similarly swept up, absent-mindedly muttered, "All right, fine," then froze. Wait, what did I just agree to? Her cheeks turned scarlet, but it was too late to take those words back. Lu Yun wasn't much better off, momentarily rattled by the antics of the twins. Two ballet-trained girls standing in a primitive straw hut-like setting. Yeah, it was an odd contrast. Shaking his head free of distractions, he cleared his throat and brought everyone back to the real task. The prize wheel, the food. Everything else could wait. Lin Lu lit up when she realized she'd been given permission to spin. She threw herself at Lu Yun with an enthusiastic bear hug, sweetly chirping, "Love you, clan leader." She spun around excitedly, planting herself firmly in front of the lucky wheel with a sense of purpose. Rubbing her hands together, her eyes shut tight as if engaged in some sacred ritual, she solemnly chanted, "Spirits above, spirits below, bless me with luck, gold, gold, gold." Once the words were spoken, she slapped the activation button. The wheel roared to life, the pointer spinning so fast that it blurred, casting a shimmering glow that filled the small, straw-roofed hut. The sound of her heartbeat seemed to be the only thing left in the silence that followed. Lin Wan clutched the edge of her jacket tightly. She wasn't hoping for gold. She was terrified of landing on white. The white section dominated the wheel, leaving the golden stripe nothing more than a sliver. What if? Images of failure started creeping into her mind, and her cheeks flushed with the thought. The pointer began to slow. White, blue, purple, gold. It passed through each section with agonizing precision, finally coming to a trembling halt on the golden stripe. Someone in the room couldn't help but whisper under their breath, "G-Gold." But just as everyone thought victory was certain, the pointer continued to move. Slowly, painfully, inching forward like a stubborn snail toward the dreaded white section. The safety of gold was slipping away, and it seemed destined to plunge into the vast abyss of white. "Stop, right there!" A sharp, commanding shout broke the tension as Lin Lu raised a fist and, in an impulsive move, slammed her hand down onto the center of the wheel's activation button. Bang! Lu Yun flinched at the sight, his heart skipping a beat. This wheel was practically a sacred artifact. But then, as if by magic, something incredible happened. The pointer, clearly moving moments before, froze abruptly under the force of her punch. And then, as though guided by fate itself, it landed squarely on the border, a perfect line between gold and white. The room was so silent you could hear a pin drop. Then, suddenly, a dazzling golden light exploded outward, filling the small hut like the first rays of dawn. It illuminated every face, each one transfixed, each one unable to believe their luck. This group had been waiting for a miracle for far too long. No one spoke about it openly, but everyone remembered the last time they had clean water to drink. In this post-apocalyptic wasteland, access to safe drinking water was rarer than any treasure. All they had now was this wheel and an untested system they weren't sure they could trust. When the wheel finally stopped, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Gold. It was gold. Not blue, not purple. It was the kind of gold that left everyone stunned, breathless with disbelief. Bathed in that golden glow, Lin Lu slowly turned to face the others. She parted her lips slightly and said just one word. "Kneel." No one understood why they did it, but they all obeyed. It wasn't submission. They knelt out of sheer, primal awe for the kind of luck that demanded reverence. This level of fortune, it was something you could only bow down to. Lin Lu stepped over to Lu Yun. Towering above him, she extended the very hand that had secured the golden outcome and, with calm composure, uttered her second word. Kiss. Lu Yun didn't hesitate. He lowered his head and let his lips brush lightly against her hand. The ritual complete, Lin Lu withdrew her hand. The commanding aura of a queen melted away, replaced by a familiar look of playful smugness as she quipped, "Just basic operations, nothing to fuss over." But no one paid her words any mind. Their attention had already shifted to the golden light fading into two distinct shapes on the ground. Whatever had materialized had everyone's full focus. Lu Yin crouched down to inspect the newly formed items, reading the descriptions out loud. The first, Happy Water Tank. A sleek, metallic silver container with two nozzles, one dispensing crystal clear water and the other pouring out perfectly carbonated cola. Both came with an unlimited supply and the highest possible quality. The second, Lucky Compass. A palm-sized golden disc adorned with a slowly spinning yin-yang symbol. Its functionality? It could automatically detect dangers within a kilometer radius, turning the pointer black when threats were present. It also offered a once-daily activation mode, Seek Fortune, which guaranteed that the direction pointed by the red needle would lead to an opportunity. He paused for emphasis as he finished reading. No food yet, but we've got infinite clean water and cola. The words had hardly left his mouth when someone in the group audibly swallowed. Xia Jin was the first to rush forward, pressing the silver nozzle. Clear water poured out, flowing in a steady stream, transparent, pure, and utterly devoid of any odor. For a moment, a girl used her hands to catch the water and quickly took a sip. Her eyes immediately welled up with tears. In this brutal world, everyone understood the value of clean water. This small, uncomplicated need being met was somehow more overwhelming than any grand prize. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Chun Xiaolin pressed the red button. With a soft hiss, a stream of fizzy cola burst forth. The familiar caramel scent of the soda filled the air, triggering a collective intake of breath from everyone present. For the moment, water was no longer a concern. Hunger remained, but at least now they had taken the first, vital step toward survival. Lu Yun examined the golden compass in his hands, his gaze fixed on the floating needle. One fortune-seeking activation per day, follow the red needle, and it would guarantee opportunity. The potential implications of this phrase played on his mind. In this apocalyptic island scenario, the term double rewards carried weight he could barely comprehend. The pointer's position, teetering on the razor-thin line separating gold and white, might have tricked the system into granting a rare glitch-induced prize. Two simultaneous rewards, directly delivered. After a brief moment of realization, Lu Yin didn't hesitate. He grabbed Lin Lu, who was mid-drink, and spun her around in excitement. Water splashed everywhere, but Lin Lu didn't seem to mind. When she saw it was him, she gave him a slow sidelong glance, smirking as she warned, "If you want to woo me, you're gonna have to get past my older sister first." Lu Yin laughed heartily and gently set her down, quickly explaining what had just occurred. Lin Li's expression shifted as the realization hit her. Her Queen of Luck aura returned with a vengeance, more exaggerated and flamboyant than before. The white supply box sat there, wrapped in fabric. Opening it revealed a full set of 30 items. As Lu Yin scanned through the list, something clicked in his mind. 13 compressed food packs, enough to cover the most malnourished members of their group. 15 sets of bikinis, meant to replace clothes made of brittle leaves. The girls, who were on the verge of collapse and whose shame had already outweighed their hunger, stood silently. A lighter was among the items, an ironic reminder of yesterday's efforts by Mo Lan, who had nearly worn out her wrists trying to start a fire. Then there was a retractable fishing rod, lying at the bottom of the box without any bait, seeming a bit lonesome. Lu Yin stared at the fishing rod for several seconds. A deserted island. Survival. Food scarcity. Constant threat of tribal conflicts. And yet, in this dire situation, someone's most prominent desire was still fishing. The system doesn't lie. What he didn't know was who that person was. The distribution process went smoother than Lu Yun had expected. The girls came forward one by one, taking the items they needed without any infighting. Some grabbed food, others took clothes, and every face showed a noticeable sense of relief as they turned to leave. Mo Lan did not retrieve the lighter. Instead, she chose a portion of food. Yesterday's needs had transformed into today's priorities. The system only recorded the desire of the moment. Humans, they adapt to survive. By the time most of the crowd had dispersed, only 3 items remained in the box: the fishing rod, the lighter, and 1 portion of food. Chen Xiaolin was the last to approach. She held her stomach as she walked unsteadily, her face pale with hunger. Her hand reached toward the portion of food, her fingers nearly brushing it, only for her gaze to drift downward, catching sight of the fishing rod. Her hand froze midair. After 2 seconds of silence, she turned her head, the weariness on her face suddenly replaced by an unexpected gleam of determination. The fishing rod. I choose the fishing rod. Lu Yun kindly reminded her. There's no bait. The look she gave him made it seem as though he'd just uttered the most ridiculous thing imaginable. She declared that the earthworms, insects, and endless resources of the natural world could all serve as bait. How could this even be an issue? She finished by adding, never doubt the expertise of an experienced angler. Hunger, exhaustion, the struggle to survive on a deserted island. None of it seemed as important to her as that fishing rod in her hand. Mystery solved. The person whose subconscious desire in an apocalyptic scenario is still fishing? It's her. Lu Yun handed the fishing rod to her without further comment. The tribe now had water, food, a means to start a fire, and a zealot eagerly preparing to fish. On the surface, today actually seemed much better than the days before. But the chapter title, The Greed of Tribe 14, was a looming foreshadowing. Lu Yun was still unaware of how many unseen eyes on this beach were watching their every move. As cheers and excitement erupted in their camp over the prospect of having fish for dinner tonight, elsewhere, at the opposite side of the island, someone was already making a head count. Tribe 14. A short, stocky man leaned against a bare tree, licking his lips. Someone finished their report to him. They had found the hut by the sea, followed the coastline, and pinned down the women's camp. The moment the news landed, he lost interest in the person sitting on his lap, kicking them aside without a second glance. His eyes were solely on the calculation brewing in his mind. This man, named Zhang Chong, had been nothing more than a tire repairman before being thrown into this strange world. His looks and status had never earned him anything in the real world. But here was different. On this island, there were no laws or police, only strength and control. He had thought carefully about it. The plan was simple. Capture the women, let his men have their fill, and then use them as bargaining chips to recruit more muscle for the tribe. Women and brute strength, he firmly believed, were the real currencies of this land. More importantly, he knew that camp only had one man. To Zhang Chong, this wasn't a threat, it was a gift waiting to be taken. All he had to do now was act faster than the other tribes. Back at the camp, they remained oblivious to any of this. Shu Qinxue had just been pulled out of a groggy sleep, only to have a piece of compressed biscuit shoved into her mouth. She took a couple of bites before tears suddenly fell, not out of complaint or sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of finally eating something. She sobbed as she nibbled in small bites, looking rather pitiful. Lu Yun stood next to her, watching quietly before calmly saying, "Chew slowly, don't choke." And then she choked. Once she recovered, Lu Yun explained the system's career choices for her: life priest, a stable, healing support role, or destroyer, a high-damage melee attacker. Without much hesitation, Shu Qinshue's eyes lit up as she declared, "I want the destroyer. No way am I hiding in the back healing. I'll crush anyone who messes with you." Lu Yun tapped, confirm, on the glowing projection in front of him. The surge of power through her body was overwhelming. All the fatigue and soreness from the day before vanished. Shu Qinshu felt as if her entire body had been wound up like a taut string, ready to spring into action immediately. She even tried to test her newfound strength, only for her legs to buckle under her, sending her straight to the ground. Thankfully, 2 girls nearby caught her just in time. She looked up at Lu Yun, her eyes wet with frustration, and muttered, "This is all your fault. The things you did last night." The camp fell silent for a second. Then, a ripple of stifled laughter erupted around them. Lu Yun chose to remain silent. Amid the laughter, a somber reality lingered in Lu Yun's mind. This peace wouldn't last long. They weren't the only people on this island. It was just a matter of time before others found them. Taking a deep breath, He forced himself to refocus and activate today's fortune compass. The needle began spinning from a neutral position, slowly staining itself a deep red. For a full 5 minutes, it spun without stopping or pointing at any specific direction. No north, no south, just a steady, unending rotation, like it was mocking him. Lu Yun squinted, his first instinct being that it was broken. His second thought was that perhaps opportunities lay in every direction, leaving the needle uncertain where to point. But neither of these explanations felt right. A legendary item at Golden Tier wouldn't malfunction for no reason. It was Bai Yu who solved the mystery. She took the compass from him, first holding it flat as the needle continued its mocking rotation. Then she began to tilt it 15 degrees, and the spin slowed a barely noticeable fraction. She tilted it further and further still until the compass stood completely vertical. The needle stopped, pointed it forward as an instinct to shield the girl behind her. The escalating tension in the pit shook with an eerie foreboding, and somewhere deep in her chest, a resolve hardened. Directly downward. It wasn't a direction, a coincidence, or a patch of woods. It was the ground beneath their feet. Lu Yun glanced at Bai Yu, who remained silent. That silence itself was an answer. Lu let out an awkward laugh, trying to smooth over the unease. But his mind had already begun piecing together a conclusion. The compass wasn't malfunctioning. The opportunity, or maybe the danger, was buried beneath them. Dig. It didn't take long. One of the girls stopped abruptly, her wooden stick hovering midair. Staring into the hole, she hesitated, her voice uncertain. This color's off. It doesn't look like rock layers. It's more like fabric. She brushed away the loose soil and screamed. A figure lay buried in the dirt. Tattered clothing clung to a body whose skin had turned an unnatural shade, ashen gray with splotches that bordered on bluish-black, as though the blood had stopped circulating long ago. Half of its face was pressed into the soil, its mouth contorted in a grotesque grin, dried traces of dark red lingering between its teeth. Lu Yun came to the edge of the pit and leaned closer for a clearer look. In his mind, only one word came to define what he was seeing. Zombie. And there were less than 3 days left until the crisis foretold by the system. Everyone had assumed that any threat would come from beyond the camp and focused their defenses on the slope that led up to it, because that was the only obvious route an enemy could take. They weren't wrong, but they hadn't considered that some threats didn't come from outside. Some were already here, lurking right beneath their feet, silently waiting. If today hadn't uncovered this hidden danger, once the chaos broke out and everyone's attention was fixed on the slope, these things would have clawed their way up from below. The outcome didn't need imagination. It would have been disastrous. A door no one noticed, one that had been open all along. Step back. Lu Yun's voice was low, but no one missed it. He jumped into the pit. With a fleeting thought, the air around him shimmered faintly, and a broken sword, silver light glowing softly from its snapped blade, manifested silently in his hand. The blade of space, the signature weapon of a spatial manipulator. Gripping the hilt with both hands, his expression sharpened, coldly fixing on the corpse's head. The silver blade came down, clean and swift. A notification popped up instantly. 50 points. Level 1. Inactive state. Standing at the bottom of the pit, Lu Yun stared at the now decapitated body, heart steadying. The aftermath left a genuine fear simmering inside him, but it was overshadowed by something stronger, elation. This thing would have risen in 3 days to attack and infect, but now? It was just an experience package lying in wait. Before its discovery, it was a time bomb. Now, it was a resource. Lu Yun climbed out of the hole, closing his eyes. He had exhausted today's use of the fortune-tracking function, but killing this creature gave him a clearer understanding of that unique presence, cold, lifeless, and saturated with a dead stillness in its spatial signature. His spatial awareness stretched out like an invisible net, spreading from his feet and slowly sweeping through the layers of soil below the camp. When he opened his eyes again, he pointed in 3 directions. There, and behind the cabin. The numbers might be higher than we imagined. The girls paled even further. Xia Jin said nothing at first. She only glanced at Lu Yun sharply before turning around, her voice calm and commanding like always. Everyone gather. Drop what you're doing and grab something to dig with. Start now. She wasn't unafraid. She was terrified, truly facing fear for the first time. She had seen gang violence. She knew how to dodge knives. But an unrelenting tide of the dead? Mindless, unthinking creatures like these? It was a different kind of dread entirely, no less than soul-shaking. Her grip on her dagger, which hadn't loosened throughout the recent days, did so slightly now. Just slightly. Enough to let her issue orders with steady control. The camp moved swiftly into action, dividing into groups, digging in the directions Lu Yun had identified. He stood still, his gaze shifting toward the edge of the forest that bordered the camp. There were two presences there, and they weren't right. In the woods, Zhang Lei walked ahead, wearing an arrogant smirk. His older cousin had assigned him this scouting mission, calling it trust. Zhang interpreted it as opportunity. Spot the girls' camp, then linger a while instead of hurrying back with the news. Out in these remote mountains, someone's bound to be alone. What he could gain depended on luck. The diminutive, eager man following him stopped grumbling instantly upon hearing this idea, his tone shifting to excitement as he urged Zhang to pick up the pace. Neither of them noticed how the path ahead gradually veered off course as they pushed through the mosquito-ridden brush, single-mindedly focused on their goal. Elsewhere in the forest, Mo Lan crouched on the ground, picking mushrooms. Lin Lu crouched beside her, blinking curiously as she asked which of those gorgeous men from viral videos could outshine her Lu Bao. Mo Lan froze momentarily, summing up her entire influencer career with just 3 words: foundation, filters, Photoshop. Even a pig can look like a beauty. She delivered the phrase with poised disdain, plucking another mushroom as though nothing had interrupted her rhythm. On one side of the forest were 2 girls. On the other, 2 men, uninvited and unrelenting, crept closer. Lu Yun had sensed those 2 presences. They were slowly encroaching. In the past, no matter how much malice poured in online through private messages or distressing harassment, Mo Lan had always understood that a line existed. Laws and social order stood firm, shielding her. Those malicious actors, however bold behind a screen, would always remain just that, behind the barrier. But here, that barrier had vanished. The bushes rustled as the shorter of the 2 men emerged first, his eyes locking onto the 2 girls. Zhang Lei rapidly followed, cutting off their retreat. With both forwards and backwards sealed, Zhang casually rested his bone knife against his palm, speaking openly and smugly. Once he'd had his fun, the other girl would be handed over, a reward for his partner. A sickening casualness hung in his tone, as if dividing spoils. Mo Lan shoved Lin Lu behind her, bracing against a tree with a stick clenched tightly in her whitening fingers. She knew the stick was useless, but still, this was the only thing left to do. Right then, Lin Lu reminded her, the wooden token. Before they set off, Lu Yun had handed them each a wooden token carved with strange symbols, instructing them to break one if they encountered danger. Without hesitation, Mo Lan reached into her basket, retrieved her token, and snapped it in 2. Almost simultaneously, in another part of the forest where he was clearing zombies, Lu Yun felt something shift. His face darkened. He quickly said a few words to Xia Jin, closed his eyes, and locked onto the location of the corresponding token. Back in the forest, Zhang Lei stretched out his hand, about to touch Mo Lan's shoulder. Then, the space twisted. No sound, no warning. In just an instant, a figure materialized in front of Mo Lan. The stranger stood with his back to her, fully facing Zhang Lei. Zhang Lei's outstretched hand froze midair. He couldn't make sense of it. He hadn't seen how this person appeared. Xiao Er, who was next to him, took a half-step back, too stunned to speak properly. Lin Li's voice broke into a mix of sobs and excitement as her terrified grip on Mo Lan's sleeve suddenly loosened. Mo Lan stumbled slightly, the weight of surviving this near-death encounter leaving her body completely drained. Lu Yun took a quick look at Mo Lan and Lin Lu, ensuring they weren't physically injured, before calmly turning his attention to Zhang Lei. From the 14th settlement? Just 4 words. His tone was casual, almost as if it meant nothing. Zhang Lei felt provoked by his composure. After all, it was only one man standing opposite him, while he had backup and a knife. Bolstered by his false bravado, he spat a sharp retort. Your crappy settlement barely has any men left. You'll get wiped out sooner or later. Join us, and we might even let you. Lu Yun moved. There was no warning. They were close enough that Zhang Lei didn't even have time to react. Lu Yun's foot slammed squarely into his chest, sending him flying backward in a stumble. Zhang Lei fled. It wasn't that Lu Yun couldn't pursue him. He simply chose not to. Xiao Er, however, wasn't as lucky. One precise hook from Lu Yun left his mouth and nose bleeding, sprawled on the ground, and unable to utter a word. Lu Yun crouched slightly and silently placed a spatial mark on him. Straightening up, he uttered a single word, leave. That one word carried more weight than any threat. Xiao Er, ignoring the pain in his dislocated wrist and aching jaw, scrambled up and bolted into the forest without daring to look back. As for Zhang Lei, the quicker he ran, the calmer Lu Yun became. Let him run. He'd come crawling back on his own. The fight was swift and surgical. From the moment Zhang Lei struck to the instant he was sent flying, it took mere seconds. Struggling to his feet, chest throbbing with pain, Zhang Lei's mind reached just one conclusion. This guy has a rare class, no doubt about it. He yelled for Xiao Er to join in, but the latter didn't last even 5 seconds. Lu Yun's movements were clean and precise, locking Xiao Er's wrist with one hand while delivering a flawless punch with the other. His actions felt less like combat and more like a carefully choreographed demonstration, devoid of any fury. That kind of calm was more terrifying than rage. Linla couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears streamed down her face as she clung to Lu Yun, unable to say a word. Mo Lan, meanwhile, leaned back against a tree and slowly slid down to sit, inhaling deeply to suppress her trembling. It took several breaths before she managed to look up and utter just 2 words, "Thank you." Normally, her gaze carried a professional aloofness, a barrier of detachment. But at that moment, it revealed nothing but raw fear and genuine gratitude. Lu Yun gently comforted Lin Lu, then reached down to help Mo Lan to her feet. "This is my duty," he said simply. "I'm the leader of this settlement." With that, he began leading both women back toward their camp. When Xia Jin finally arrived with a group of people in tow, they ran into Lu Yun and the others along the way. Scanning the area, Xia Jin saw no signs of enemies. Lu Yun's expression was calm, and the 2 women seemed to be regaining their composure. "Handled," Lu Yun said tersely, throwing out just one word. Xia Jin didn't press for an explanation, but a subtle, indescribable sense of defeat crept over her. Ever since they had entered this place, her once prized instincts, skills, and leadership abilities seemed to consistently lag behind Lu Yun's. For someone as proud as Xia Jin, the realization stung, like a fine splinter lodged in her heart. Not particularly painful, but impossible to ignore. Once Lin Lu and Mo Lan were safely settled, Lu Yun and Xia Jin stepped to the edge of the cliff outside the wooden cabin. After a brief silence, Lu Yun spoke. "Tonight, I'm going to the 14th settlement's base." Xia Jin sharply turned to him, her crimson eyes narrowing. "To negotiate." Her response was immediate, tinged with frustration. "Lu Yun, negotiation without overwhelming strength to back it up is just asking to be humiliated." He shook his head. His side profile, bathed in twilight, looked especially hard-edged as he met Xia Jin's gaze and spoke deliberately. "Not to negotiate. I'm going to make an example out of the 14th settlement. To the best of my ability, I'm going to destroy them." Xia Jin had no response. The night was creeping in, the wind through the forest growing colder. Without waiting for her reply, Lu Yun turned and started heading deeper into the woods. When Baiyu later appeared, she didn't ask him anything. She simply blocked his path and quietly stared at his face. "You're planning something high-risk again, aren't you?" It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. She then recited a precise statistic. Facial microexpressions, muscle tension, pupil dilation, a 76.3% match to your baseline during the last time you went solo to find a settlement location. Lu Yun didn't deny it. Half an hour earlier, Xia Jin had nearly lost it. "The 14th settlement has 30 people. Tonight, you're telling me you're going to charge in alone and take them all out?" Her crimson eyes widened with disbelief, her voice cracking in shock. "You on your own tonight?" But Lu Yun responded with a question of his own. "The 14th settlement declared war on us in the global channel today. Their scouts have already been spotted near us. We survived this time. What about the next? Once the cavalry is assembled, what will their choice be?" Xia Jin already knew the answer. Showing weakness here was as good as death. The moment a wolf pack determined its prey wouldn't fight back, every wolf lunged for the kill. She couldn't stop him. She only asked, "What do you plan to do?" By twilight, every zombie available in the vicinity had been stacked in front of the cabin. Ku Yun activated her experience multiplier, her focus locked on Lu Yun. Lu Yun drew his spatial blade and began clearing the field, one corpse at a time. Level 4. He had gone from level 1 to 4 over the span of this dusky evening. Each upgrade felt as if his body were being wrung out like a wet towel. Strength, speed, reflexes, everything ascended to a new level. His spatial awareness expanded, the details of his surroundings sharpened, as if invisible tendrils of perception had begun extending into the darkness. He knew it still wasn't enough. But for now, this was all he could achieve. When the bonfire was lit, the girls gathered, chatting about dinner, mushrooms, and how Lin's eyes sparkled with excitement when she took the fishing rod out earlier. The whole camp radiated a sense of calm relief, like the exhale after battling through a storm. Bai didn't join their circle. Instead, she walked directly up to him. Lu Yun shared the confirmation with her. Something flickered in her clear eyes, a shadow, gone in an instant. Just for a moment. The sample must safely return to the database, she said, her tone steady, like going through the motions of a predetermined procedure. You promised me the experiment yesterday. Please don't delay. Her words were cold, purely functional. But for some reason, Lu Yun thought he could hear something else beneath them. She stood on her toes and softly kissed his lips. I don't want to lose my source of dopamine. That was the rawest confession she could manage. Then she turned and sat by the fire, as though nothing had happened. Lu Yun stayed where he was for a second, double-checked his gear, then turned and disappeared into the night. The camp of Tribe 14 waited for him in the darkness. Mockery filled the communication channel instantly. The moment their declaration of war went out, it was met with jeers before 10 seconds had passed. The system quickly muted Xia Jin, cutting her off mid-sentence, but not before those provocative words had been buried under an avalanche of ridicule. People scoffed at an all-female tribe declaring war. Someone joked that the only man in the tribe was probably even more cowardly than the girls. Other tribes took the opportunity to extend recruitment offers, claiming they'd gladly accept the girls from Tribe 01, though the man wasn't welcome. No one took it seriously. Xia Jin stared at the muted notification for a few seconds before closing the interface. Laugh all you want. She knew better than anyone. This was all she could do for now. Flashback to about an hour earlier. Xia Jin, gripping a blade, approached Lu Yun from behind. I want to come with you, she said. Her tone wasn't forceful. It was more of a probing request, or perhaps one last act of defiance. Lu Yun didn't respond immediately. After a few seconds of silence, he gave her a reason she simply couldn't refute. The tribe needed someone to stay behind, someone to take charge if anything went wrong. She was the most suitable person for the role, and she knew he was right. That truth only made it harder to bear. For the past couple of days, she had felt like a bystander, helplessly watching events spiral out of control, unable to stop any of it. Always standing guard, protecting something, but never with an outlet for her growing frustrations. Her crimson eyes fixed on Lu Yun's profile. There was a sting in her pride, a knifing sense of inadequacy. But in the end, she only nodded firmly, grinding out a single word through clenched teeth. Fine. Then she handed him 5 throwing knives, crafted from salvaged iron by the tribe's blacksmith. The limited resources had only yielded these 5 blades. When Lu Yun took them, a flicker of genuine joy lit his eyes, unhidden and real. These knives could complement his spatial ability, something Xia Jin might not fully understand, but she knew he needed them. Thank you, Xia Jin. She turned her eyes away, uncomfortable with the sincerity of his gratitude. Make it back alive. Otherwise, these knives will have gone to waste. Lu Yun took one last look at the girls around the campfire and then disappeared into the forest. Just as he left, Chen Xiaolin popped out from the other side of the woods, carrying 4 or 5 live fish. From a distance, she started shouting excitedly, "Dinner's getting an upgrade tonight," and loudly demanded Lu Yun come out and call her big sister. The girls swarmed her, cheering, their joy momentarily washing away the lingering shadows left by the zombie cleanup. After making a round amidst the lively crowd, but failing to find Lu Yun, Qin Xiaolin turned and asked Xia Jin, "Where'd Lu Yun go?" "He had something to do and left for a bit," Xia Jin replied evenly, her voice betraying no hint of emotion. The fire kept burning. The laughter persisted. But Lu Yun had already vanished into the depths of the night. The declaration of war was sent out after his departure. It wasn't a plea for help, a sign of surrender, or an attempt to negotiate. It was simply a statement, a promise. "See you tomorrow, Tribe 14. Back in the channel, people were still laughing. Some thought it was the desperate wail of a cornered animal. Others deemed it a reckless stunt inviting disaster. A few were already calculating what spoils they might claim when Tribe 01 inevitably fell. Xia Jin closed the interface. She didn't need to watch anymore. The louder they laughed now, the more they'd owe when Lu Yun returned. That guy, Xiao Air, didn't even realize every step he took while running for his life was aligned with someone else's plan. Lu Yun hadn't pursued him directly. From the moment Xiao Air narrowly escaped, he became nothing more than a living GPS marker. The spatial imprint Lu Yun had left on him would guide him straight to his destination. When the imprint finally stopped moving, that would signal the location of Tribe 14's stronghold. When Lu Yun arrived, he wouldn't make a grand entrance. Instead, he landed quietly about 50 meters outside their camp perimeter and blended into the shadows. The moist scent of plant sap and mud. A shadow. That was all he could make out. Hidden among the twisted branches of a sprawling tree, unmoving, silent, like it was part of the night itself. Earlier, Xiao Air limped inside the thatched hut, dragging his injured leg behind him. He was oblivious to the fact that a hunter had already begun silently mapping out every position around the camp from the outside. After reaching level 4, Lu Yun's spatial awareness now extended to a nearly 150-meter radius. Within his mind, the layout of the entire camp and the placement of its inhabitants emerged as vividly as if it were a living map. For sentries were stationed at the outskirts, southeast, northeast, southwest, and northwest, each about 30 to 40 meters from the main area, their positions and orientations as clear as day. He ignored those still awake inside the hut for now. The priority was to take out the 4 sentries cleanly. Inside the hut, things were heating up. Zhang Lei stood in the middle of the room, his tone as grim as his expression was sour, recounting their recent mishap in a way that painted it more as a fluke than a defeat. Invisible teleports, inhuman strength. Each word was carefully chosen, trying to make the adversary sound like some rare, supernatural anomaly rather than a mere man. It was damage control, a desperate attempt to shift focus from his own failure. But the dozen or so men around him weren't shaken in the slightest. Instead, the more they talked, the more riled up they became. They roared with excitement, declaring that they'd storm the women's camp that very night and dice up that pretty boy to feed their chickens. Sitting on a cobbled-together stone chair, Zhang Chong raised a hand to silence them. His voice was hoarse, each word deliberate and firm. "Someone laid a hand on my brother. Blood must be repaid with blood. Tonight, we settle this. No exceptions." It was set, midnight raid. Zhang Lei would lead them to the camp himself. He vowed to personally twist off that pretty boy's head and kick it around in front of those women. As his men scattered to prepare, shouting proclamations of loyalty and respect, Zhang Chong stayed seated, calculating. His brother had lost face in front of everyone, and Zhang Chong had noticed the wavering in the eyes of his subordinates. If he didn't act decisively, brutally, the group's cohesion would crumble. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about power, fear, control. What Zhang Chong didn't know was that his intended target was already perched silently in a tree, 200 meters away, watching it all unfold. Lu Yun gripped a throwing knife, one of the blades given to him by Xia Jin. The surface was matte, designed not to reflect moonlight. His first objective was the southeastern sentry. The man was leaning against the root of a tree, lazily spinning a bone knife in his hand, his eyelids getting heavier by the minute. Lu Yun didn't strike him directly. Instead, he threw the knife at a slanted angle, aiming just above the sentry's head. The blade pierced into a horizontal branch with a soft, almost insect-like thud, lighter than the sound of a falling acorn. As soon as it landed, Lu Yun's spatial mark took hold. The sentry glanced upward, startled, but saw nothing in the darkness. Puzzled, he lowered his gaze again. By the time he looked back down, Lu Yun had already vanished from his original spot. In the next instant, Lu Yun materialized silently on that very branch, crouched directly above the sentry like a flattened shadow pressed into the night. A hand reached down from behind, clamping over the man's mouth and nose. The other hand held a knife, which slid precisely and lethally across. 7 men. None even had the chance to make a sound. Lu Yun's method wasn't complicated. It was ruthlessly efficient. First, he'd fling a throwing knife near the target, creating a faint noise to divert their attention. Then, using his teleportation ability, he'd reposition himself right behind or beside them. A quick, precise slice with his spatial blade across the neck or heart, followed by catching and lowering the body quietly to the ground, erasing any signs of disturbance. The entire process was as quick as a single breath, as silent as if it had never happened at all. One by one, the 4 sentries stationed at the outskirts disappeared into the night. 2 more men soon joined their fate. These had come outside from the hut, perhaps to relieve themselves. Neither made it back, pants still undone. The camp grew unnervingly silent, from the perimeter to its heart. Inside the hut, a man nicknamed Pointy Mouth fidgeted uneasily. He leaned in and whispered something to Zhang Chong. The message was clear. It was too quiet outside, and the 2 men who had just gone out hadn't returned. Zhang Chong tilted his head, listening. There should have been sporadic sounds from the sentries, movement, the occasional murmured conversation. Now, there was nothing. He ordered one of his more alert men to take a torch and check the southeastern sentry post. It was only 30 to 40 meters away, a trip that'd take less than 2 minutes. But that man didn't return either. No shouts, no scuffle, not even fading footsteps. It was as if he'd walked straight into another dimension. Zhang Chong rose to his feet, all traces of his earlier nonchalance wiped clean from his face. His tribe of 20 men was one of the larger, more feared groups on the island. Yet, in the dead of night, 7 of his men had vanished without even a whisper. Confirmation came quickly. The 4 sentry posts, abandoned. Bloodstains marked the ground. The bodies, hastily hidden in nearby undergrowth, were found. The man delivering the trembling report instinctively took several steps back as he spoke. Zhang Chong stared hard into the surrounding darkness of the jungle, his frustration boiling over. He let out a furious roar, demanding whoever was hiding to come out and face him. The darkness stayed still, oppressive, completely silent. That silence was more unnerving than the deaths themselves. It clawed at his nerves, pushing him to the edge, this crushing, suffocating quiet. His roar deepened into something more primitive, more guttural, like a cornered beast baring its fangs in desperation. Then came the sound of bones breaking. Not one crack. A series of rapid, gruesome pops, as the structure of his body shifted and reshaped itself. Zhang Chong's frame stretched taller, broader. Muscles bulged grotesquely, gray-black fur sprouting from beneath his skin, spreading like wildfire until it consumed his entire form. The man named Zhang Chong was gone, replaced by something more monstrous. What stood beneath the dim torchlight now was a hulking, half-human, half-wolf beast, a creature nearly twice the width of an average man, with glowing, predator-green slit pupils that cut through the shadows. Its senses, smell, hearing, far surpassed anything human. His subordinates involuntarily stepped back, a few clutching their weapons with visibly trembling hands. This was Zhang Chong's ace card, his rare combat class ability, Wolf Transformation. It granted him incredible strength, speed, and resilience at the cost of sacrificing most of his reasoning. But he didn't need reasoning now. He needed blood. Those glowing eyes scanned the jungle, hunting for the faintest clue. And then he froze. In a certain direction, almost imperceptible amidst the natural sense of the wilderness, he caught a trace of foreign human presence. Fresh blood, blood from 7 men, and some of it now clung to Lu Yun. "I've found you." The moment the throwing knife embedded itself in Zhang Chong's chest, it was eerily silent. It wasn't the dull sound of flesh being pierced, but an unnervingly crisp metallic clash. The razor-sharp space blade bounced right off. Lu Yun froze for just half a second. Zhang Chong neither fell nor staggered. He simply lowered his gaze to the shallow mark on his chest where the blade hadn't even broken his skin. Then, Throwing his head back, he unleashed an earth-shaking roar of fury. In that single moment, the tide of battle shifted completely. Up until now, Lu Yun had been in absolute control. Since Zhang Chang's transformation, his wolfing out, his enhanced senses, speed, and primal tracking instincts made facing him head-on a death sentence. So, Lu Yun kept it calculated and ruthless, planting throwing knives imprinted with spatial markers all around the camp beforehand, teleporting to outmaneuver Zhang Chang, and using the chaos to eliminate the rest of his minions with swift precision. The strategy was flawless. Zhang Chang's men dropped one by one, throats slashed, eyes pierced. A knife would teleport mid-air, taking off ahead, while Lu Yun was already 30 meters away. Enraged, Zhang Chang even started ripping through his own crew, tearing apart those who blocked his way in frenzied bursts of violence, saving Lu Yun the trouble. The goal was simple: wear the enemy down, reduce their numbers, wait for the decisive one-on-one moment, and end it all with a single strike of the space blade. On paper, it was a solid plan. What Lu Yun didn't calculate: Zhang Chang was adapting far faster than expected. At first, when Lu Yun teleported, Zhang Chang would need a couple of seconds to reacquire his target. But as the fight dragged on, those seconds shortened. He wasn't relying solely on vision anymore. Something primal had been awakened in him, a beast-like instinct that allowed him to feel faint ripples and spatial disturbances, predicting Lu Yun's movements with unnerving accuracy. The last time Lu Yun appeared 30 meters away, Zhang Chang didn't wait. Before Lu Yun even landed, Zhang Chang had already lunged in his direction. At that point, Lu Yun had no way out. No spatial markers prepared behind him, no time to teleport again. The distance was too short. He went for broke. Channeling all his strength into his right arm, the space blade charged with raw energy, Lu Yun drove it straight toward Zhang Chang's bristling, hair-covered chest. He'd calculated everything: level 4 strength, spatial enhancement, sustained energy buildup. By all logic, this strike should have torn through the hide of most mutated creatures without resistance. Instead, all he got was that sharp metallic clang. Nothing broke. Zhang Chang winced from the impact, but that pain was a scratch compared to his boiling fury. He shot his clawed hand forward in retaliation, the force behind it reeking of death and carried by the stench of decay. Lu Yun had no time for any meaningful evasion. At the last possible second, he forcefully triggered his mental energy, a strained, uneven teleport barely saving him. Still, the claws grazed his left shoulder. Blood splattered. As Lu Yun rematerialized 15 meters away, collapsing to one knee, a searing pain radiated from his wounded shoulder, intensifying with each passing moment. He glanced at the injury briefly, grimaced, then forced his head back up. Zhang Chang had stopped moving. He stood in place, his vertical pupils locked onto Lu Yun, his chest vibrating with a deep, guttural growl. It wasn't weariness, nor was it a retreat. It was an intense, predatory patience, like he was daring Lu Yun to make his next move. Lu Yun didn't need to guess what the problem was anymore. The math was painfully clear. Few spatial markers were left. Zhang Chang's resistance to injury surpassed all expectations, and the beast had nearly unraveled Lu Yun's teleportation rhythm. This fight wasn't over, but for the first time, Lu Yun tasted his own blood. Zhang Chang paused, surveying his surroundings. Not out of exhaustion, but strategy. His pupils flicked toward a nearby tree trunk where another one of Lu Yun's knives was embedded, vibrating faintly with residual spatial energy. A beast's intuition is faster than any deduction. It clicked. The roar that followed was one of pure, furious realization. Zhang Chang didn't charge toward Lu Yun. Instead, he whipped around, his massive claws smashing the tree. The knife, along with its faint spatial ripple, was torn to pieces, its imprint dissipating entirely. Lu Yun's heart sank. He knew what was coming next. The chase became a nightmare. It wasn't that Zhang Chang had become faster. It was that Lu Yun's carefully laid groundwork was dismantled. Each time Lu Yun teleported, Zhang Chang adjusted, not to pursue him directly, but to hunt down and destroy the remaining spatial markers. One knife, gone. Another, pulverized. 3, 4. The majority of Lu Yun's pre-planned escape routes were eradicated methodically. With every knife destroyed, his breathing space shrank further. Meanwhile, The gash on Lu Yun's left shoulder continued to bleed profusely. Each forced teleport sapped his stamina and mental reserves at an alarming rate. When the very last usable marker was gone, Zhang Chong came straight at him. No escape. Lu Yun couldn't break through Zhang Chong's defenses, couldn't outrun him, and had neither energy nor weapons to fall back on. As he rapidly ran through scenarios in his mind, every outcome led to the same grim conclusion. Zhang Chong, in his wolf-transformed state, had become an unyielding wall, impenetrable strength, unbreakable defense, and those piercing, all-knowing beast eyes. Then, something caught Lu Yun's eye. Amid the battlefield's carnage, a few bodies still twitched faintly. They weren't dead yet. Experience. He was only a sliver away from reaching level 5, and there was just one spatial marker left, one singular, fragile imprint. Hidden on Xiao Air, a minor figure desperately feigning death amid the corpses. Lu Yun had planted the marker before the chaos began, a precaution he'd nearly forgotten. It was a gamble, his only option. With every last ounce of mental strength, Lu Yun focused on that tiny, nearly imperceptible marker. Locking onto it, he triggered the teleportation. The moment he reappeared, ignoring the stabbing pain from his shoulder wound, the familiar weight of the space blade rested in his grip. Without hesitation, he slashed cleanly through the throats of the two nearest injured bodies. System notifications rang out in quick succession. 2. 1 kill. Overflowing experience. Level up. And then came the moment of unlocking a new skill. A deeper, more commanding power of spatial manipulation surged in his palm, entirely different from anything he had wielded before. The whole process happened in the blink of an eye. Zhang Chong's beast-like instincts blared an alarm at that moment. He didn't know exactly what had happened, but he felt the unmistakable weight of a threat. Without wasting a second on thought, he lunged toward Lu Yun's exposed back with the fastest attack he'd ever mustered, his claws carving through the air like a storm. Lu Yun didn't dodge. He merely raised his right hand slowly and traced an arc in the air. No explosion, no flash of light, just a faint, brittle sound, like glass quietly shattering. A silvery line appeared across Zhang Chong's forehead, running straight down his entire wolf-like body. Perfectly symmetrical, his form split in two halves and collapsed to the ground. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. The remaining 3, Sharp Nose, the feigned dead Xiao Air, and another, stared at Lu Yun as though he wasn't human. A look of absolute terror filled their eyes before they turned and bolted into the woods in mad, clumsy desperation. Lu Yun staggered toward the thatched hut. Inside, 10 girls huddled in the corners, trembling. They lifted their heads at his approach. He uttered only 4 words. "You are free now." Then he turned and began his long walk home. On the other side of the hills, the bonfire at the camp had long burned itself out. Xia Jin sat crouched in front of the wooden gate, staring intently at the hilltop's horizon. She refused to let anyone else take her place. How long had he been gone? 3 hours? 4? Her eyes had been glued to a single number for what felt like an eternity. On the island's survival channel, Tribe 14's remaining population count was displayed. Hours earlier, there had been at least 24 members. But now, that number had dropped to 13. 13. Someone had mentioned just earlier today that Tribe 14 had at least 20 male fighters. Now they've lost more than half their numbers, and the night wasn't even over yet. Xia Jin's grip tightened around the hilt of the long blade resting on her lap. She knew why Lu Yun had gone. This wasn't a harassment tactic, and he certainly wasn't just testing enemy lines. He was there to execute a full-scale purge. But the speed at which it happened, the eerie efficiency of it all, sent chills down her spine. What happened out there? Did the enemy have rare classes? How had he, a single person, survived against so many opponents? Her gaze flickered back to Tribe 01's number on the channel screen. 30. Still 30. She let out a shaky breath, her exhale trembling from the suffocating tension. But she didn't dare relax. That 30 could hold steady for only so long. What if he was gravely injured? What if he was moments from death, and the number hadn't dropped yet? She fixated on that stubborn 30, as though willing it to stay just where it was, terrified that it might suddenly drop to 29. So consumed by her focus was she that she didn't hear the slow, heavy footsteps approaching from the hill below. Each step was deliberate, dragging. Waited. Then, A voice broke through the stillness. Xiajin. Her entire body jolted. The long blade slipped from her hands and clattered to the ground, but she didn't care. Help me up. In the dim glow of moonlight, she saw a figure emerge from the shadow of the hill. He moved as if every step cost him dearly. His body was drenched in dark stains, and his left shoulder was a grotesque mess of flesh, with deep, visible tears that made her stomach churn. It was Lu Yun. Xiajin's throat locked up, rendering her unable to speak. She stared, frozen, for several seconds before her body moved on instinct. She dashed down the slope in a blur, catching him just as his knees threatened to buckle. She supported him against her smaller frame. He wanted to sit by the gate, letting the ocean breeze wash over him without stepping inside. No crowds. No questions. No tears. Okay, she whispered softly, not pressing further. She eased him down, guiding him to rest his head on her lap. It was as though an unseen weight lifted from him. His body completely slackened, surrendering to his exhaustion. After a moment's pause, he gave her a small nod. It's done. 3 words. Xiajin's entire body quaked involuntarily. She tilted her head back, inhaling deeply, then exhaled just as slowly, staring at the night sky for what felt like forever. I thought I'd forgotten how to cry. Lowering her gaze, she looked at the man now resting on her lap, battered, vulnerable, but alive, and spoke in a voice so soft it was barely audible. What about their leader? The man, his head still against her lap, had already drifted off. Xiajin didn't dare to move. She simply sat there, staring down at him. Lu Yun had gone to Tribe 14 alone, risking everything. That tribe's leader was a rare-class fighter with nearly 30 men under his command. Yet Lu Yun returned, and now, only 13 remained. She had asked about the leader. His reply had been 4 words. Very strong, but dead. Before he'd lost consciousness, Lu Yun had managed to tell her that the samples from Bayou were intact, that Tribe 14's resources were still viable, and that he had left a marked trail along the way back. But his voice cut off before he could finish that last sentence. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, Xiajin thought the worst had happened. Her breath caught, her heart skipped, and she leaned down in panic, only to realize he was simply asleep. Just asleep. She couldn't stop a single tear from escaping. Only one. Quietly, in her mind, she apologized to her mother, apologizing for breaking her vow to never cry for a man. Then, gently, she set Lu Yun's head down, stood up, and summoned the camp's medics to treat his injuries. She led a group through the night toward Tribe 14. Lu Yun had left a marked trail. He hadn't finished explaining, but she understood. He had done everything he could. She would not let it be in vain. Before dawn, she took everything worth taking from Tribe 14, everything that might help their survival. At first light, the island's channel descended into chaos. Tribal factions such as Tribe 09 and Tribe 07 began hurling taunts in the open forum. A few mocked Tribe 01's heroic women, questioning if they had even managed to wake up yet. Others joked they were surely being handled by Tribe 14's fighters, too humiliated to show their faces. Some advised public apologies to avoid escalation, while others extended peaceful invitations in thinly veiled attempts to lure them into subjugation. Means nothing if he can't survive to enjoy it. You owe me a sample. White Feather's calm voice brought him back from his spinning thoughts. Her presence could be unnerving, like a sharp blade placed too close to the skin. Her tone and words were devoid of emotion, as though she wasn't speaking to a person but analyzing data from a subject. Last night's events unraveled swiftly in his mind. The relentless battles, the harsh words exchanged, and the photograph that sealed 2 tribes' submission. At the time, he hadn't questioned it. Survival and power were all that mattered. But White Feather, she wasn't about power for power's sake. Her interests lay in something deeper, something far more unsettling. I'll keep my promise, Lu Yun rasped as he cleared his parched throat. The chilled water had woken him, but his body felt miles behind. Every muscle screamed in protest with each movement. Her intensity alone might have kept him immobilized if his injuries weren't already doing the job. White Feather leaned back slightly, finally giving him space to breathe. Good, she replied succinctly, as though his compliance were inevitable. Meanwhile, in the rest of the camp, the tension bubbled thick under the surface. The events surrounding the fall of Tribe 14 loomed over everyone like a dark cloud. What exactly had happened to leave only 13 survivors, and why had Tribe 01 remained completely untouched, without a single casualty? No one dared to publicly question it after those numbers were etched into the collective psyche, but the unspoken dread was palpable. Tribes 07 and 09, having been unapologetically put to their knees, were scrambling to gather the demanded tribute. Stone, food, and precious materials. They piled them high, ensuring that they wouldn't suffer the same fate as Tribe 14. Even the most arrogant voices from their camps were now hushed, their owners missing from the public communication channels for hours now. And behind it all, Summer Jean, the leader of Tribe 01, quietly observed. Her listeners might have believed her threats were exaggerated when she first delivered them, but now everyone knew better. Her calm demeanor had been mistaken for weakness, an oversight no one would repeat again unless they wanted their name painted red by her hands. Now it was a game of waiting. Would the other tribes comply entirely, and more importantly, would Tribe 01 make good on their implicit warnings if they didn't? One thing was certain. Survival on this island was no longer just about battling the beasts or scavenging for food. It was about navigating power plays, deals, and inscrutable leaders like Summer Jean. Afternoon, came her decisive voice from their side of the encampment. Inventory check. White Feather's gaze flicked toward her, but she remained silent, a sentinel with her endless calculations ticking away internally. Summer's commanding presence wasn't something you ignored, but White Feather, as always, seemed unaffected. Lu Yun shook his head with a grim smile. You live up to their fears, he murmured, glancing in Summer's direction, his body heavy but his respect growing unavoidable. You don't survive on this island by being harmless, Summer replied without looking at him. Her focus stayed ahead on her plans, already calculating her next moves now that 2 tribes had been tamed. Like pieces on a chessboard, she'd align them where they benefited her tribe most. The cost was that Bayou's experiment from the previous night had to be postponed. Using her usual calm tone, Bayou told him, "The postponement is reasonable. There's no need to apologize. The overall evaluation of the experiment's benefits remains positive." The more logical her explanation became, the heavier Lu Yun's guilt grew. He wanted to make amends, so he directly asked if there was anything he could do to help right now. Bayou tilted her head slightly, as if seriously calculating. After a few seconds, her gaze returned to his face. There is. I'd like to continue and complete last night's unfinished experiment now. She paused for a moment and added, considering your limited mobility on the left side of your torso, you can remain lying on your back while I take the lead from above to conduct the procedures. Lu Yun's brain short-circuited for a full 3 seconds. It was broad daylight. The door to the wooden cabin was just slightly ajar. Though the girls were busy outside, they could walk in at any moment. He had fiercely fought the night before, suffered serious injuries, and had just barely upheld a stable and reliable image as the tribe leader in front of everyone. If anyone walked in on them at this very moment. Before he could finish that thought, Bayou's hand was already reaching toward his shoulder. Cold sweat trickled down his back as the door to the thatched hut suddenly slammed open. Lin Lu burst in, a wide smile on her face. Lu Yun, you're awake. That's great. I'll go tell everyone. Her words barely landed before she darted outside again. Lu Yun silently let out a long sigh of relief, but then realized that Bayou barely paused from the interruption. She simply resumed, now leaning down. Her soft, cool lips landed squarely on his. His mind went completely blank. Lin Lu had said she was going to inform everyone. Everyone in the tribe. That meant dozens of girls. Bayou had clearly heard and understood this. Yet, she showed no reaction, as if to her, being observed during an experiment was entirely normal. The kiss ended, and Bayou leaned back slightly. Her tone remained calm and steady. The kissing procedure is complete. Next, we will proceed to... Wait. Lu Yun interrupted her, his voice almost cracking, but his brain was now working at lightning speed. He tried his best to keep his expression serious, scientific, and full of concern for the accuracy of experimental data. For any rigorous data collection, the experimental subject needs to be in optimal condition to ensure accuracy and reliability of the results, right? Bayou stared at him for a moment before slowly nodding. signaling for him to continue. The sound of footsteps outside grew louder, more than one person this time. Taking a deep breath, Lu Yun clung to the one tool he could rely on, logic. It was his last weapon against fate itself. With just a single sentence, Lu Yun managed to delay the experiment. His claim that his body hadn't yet recovered to its normal state, making the data unreliable, sounded like reasonable advice to Baiyu. In reality, it was him using her own logical mindset to trap her. Baiyu nodded in agreement and accepted the postponement. Only then did the cold sweat on Lu Yun's back finally start to subside. Dealing with her way of thinking wasn't impossible, but it required him to operate at full mental capacity, carefully searching for the slightest loopholes. Not long after, the room was bustling with activity. Shu Qinxua entered with a group of girls, her eyes slightly red. They surrounded him, chirping questions like, "Where do you feel pain? And are you okay? You scared the life out of us." Lu Yun answered as best he could while propping himself up with his hand. What his palm touched surprised him. It wasn't the grass mat he expected, it was a bed. A proper bed, soft, springy, and unusually spacious. Lin Li's eyes darted around nervously as she mumbled something about bad luck, saying she'd only managed to snag a blue-grade item that day. Lu Yun didn't respond, but there was a glint in his eyes that didn't go unnoticed by Qin Xiaolan. With a sly grin, she leaned in, looped her arm around his neck, and whispered a few teasing remarks that immediately sparked the same train of thought among everyone present. Before long, the room erupted in playful jokes and laughter, Shu Qinshue's cheeks blazing red with embarrassment. Standing at the doorway, Xia Jin spoke up, her voice cutting sharp and clear, effectively clearing out the lively crowd in an instant. Once the room was quiet again, she methodically explained everything that had happened while Lu Yun was unconscious. Her tone was steady, though a sharp determination glimmered in her gaze. The supplies from Tribe 14 had been merged with theirs. Combined with their prior resources, they now had enough to meet the requirements for upgrading their basic housing. Xia Jin had personally overseen every step of the process and handled it flawlessly. Lu Yun looked at her and said bluntly, "You're essential to this tribe. With you here, everything is stable and under control." Xia Jin's crimson-tinged eyes flickered briefly. She hesitated for a moment, skipped over his compliment entirely, and directly asked, "What's your current level now?" "Level 6, he replied. For a moment, her expression cracked, revealing genuine surprise. Xia Jin herself had a rare class, a quality that would make her stand out anywhere. Yet she was only on the verge of reaching level 3. Lu Yun, on the other hand, had essentially leaped to level 6 after just one rest. The disparity wasn't simply a matter of numbers. It represented a gap in combat power, so vast it was hard for someone as competitive as her to accept. Her desire for greater strength was fully ignited in that instant. But Lu Yun's mind had already wandered to another matter entirely. The chieftain's grace ability allowed him to transform classes, something he had already proven. However, Xia Jin wasn't just anyone. Her rare class, Berserker, stood out even among exceptional skills. If his ability were applied to her, what would happen? A class metamorphosis? The awakening of even greater talents? Or would it trigger some deeper, more profound change? Among all the hidden cards in his deck, this path was one he had yet to explore. By the afternoon, Lu Yun had stepped out of the wooden hut, rolling his left shoulder to loosen it up. The wound still tugged a bit, but it was no longer much of an issue. Zhang Chang's claw from the previous night had ripped through skin but hadn't damaged any muscle or bone. With his current level 6 physique, such injuries were mending rapidly, nearly healed after just half a day. Shu Qinshuo had been waiting outside the entire time. When she saw him come out, she ran up to him. Though her movements were gentler than usual, it was clear she hadn't slept much, given the faint dark circles under her eyes. Lu Yun tousled her hair lightly and reassured her. "I'm fine now." Shu Qinshuo tried to laugh it off by saying, "Why so sappy? We're just brothers here." But her reddened eyes betrayed her true concern. In the glow of dim light, nearly 30 girls had now donned garments made of animal hide. The crude craftsmanship of the strapless tops and short skirts was a far cry from sophisticated, but it was a significant step up from their previous attire. Not only did it provide basic protection, but it also gave each of them a sense of sharp, polished confidence. Most of these materials had been acquired from other tribes. Those two innocent-looking quotation marks held tales of sacrifice and cost that everyone understood too well. Xia Jin stood to the side. She noticed Lu Yun stepping out, something flickering briefly in her crimson eyes before fading into a guarded calm. She was still turning that number over and over in her mind. Meanwhile, Lu Yun was already calculating how to bring the answer to light as quickly as possible. The storm struck with no warning, like a clenched fist coming down mid-sentence. First, the sky, which in a matter of minutes turned from normal to a deep, oppressive black. Then came the wind, howling with an intensity that sounded as though the air itself was being torn apart. And finally, the rain. Massive raindrops pelted the earth, each impact detonating like tiny, relentless explosions. The island's communal communication channel erupted into chaos. Our crappy straw roof is leaking. The floor's practically a swamp. The wind's coming through every gap. It's freezing. My bones feel like they're about to crack. We need to find a cave, at least something made of stone. Dying soaked in rain is still better than freezing to death in this waterlogged death trap. The flood of messages was relentless, scrolling too quickly to follow. In that moment, the majority of the tribes across the island reached the same bitter realization. What they called shelters were nothing but deceptively arranged piles of straw. Illusions of safety. Meanwhile, up on the cliff, the wooden house stood firm. Inside, the flames in the fireplace burned steadily. The earthy aroma of roasting mushrooms filled the air. The sound of rain hammering against the sturdy wood walls and roof created a dense rhythm, but not a single trace of dampness seeped in. Small groups of girls huddled together, some murmuring in soft conversation, others tending to skewers of fish over the fire. A few were already contemplating what else could be cooked over the heat of the reliable hearth. This moment of peace was a luxury, a rare anomaly on the storm-ravaged island. Just an hour ago, this place had been nothing more than a rickety straw hut on the verge of collapse. Lu Yun had summoned the system interface and confirmed the command to upgrade. What followed could only be described as miraculous. Nearby piles of wood and stone seemed to come alive, levitating as if guided by invisible hands. They swapped out the shoddy structure's weaker parts, aligning, reinforcing, and sealing every gap. The roof was replaced with thick wooden beams. The walls gained a solidity capable of withstanding ferocious winds. In a corner, even a simple but functional stone hearth materialized. The entire transformation took mere minutes. The upgraded shelter had been completed just in time. Chun Xiaolin burst in from the direction of the shore, dripping with water. Her wet hair and animal hide clothing clung to her as she clutched several fish in her hands. She barely had time to shout that it was getting dark and a storm was coming before the gale had already arrived. Timing. Sometimes life's outcomes hang on the slenderest thread of timing. Now, in those leaky, drafty grass huts, the miserable inhabitants huddling against the storm had no idea that, somewhere on the island, there were people sitting safely by a fireplace, calmly roasting fish. This stark disparity wasn't luck. It was the result of someone staying one step ahead, a step meticulously calculated by Lu Yun. What needed urgent priority, what couldn't wait, and what might seem delayable but was only open to action for the briefest window. He had considered it all. The flickering firelight danced across everyone's faces. Teacher Ku Yun's gaze shifted slowly, scanning the relaxed expressions of her companions, before finally settling on Lu Yun, sitting alone by the side. She didn't say anything, but her eyes carried something unspoken, layered and complex. The storm raged on outside, a relentless downpour that seemed it would never end. When Ku Yun eventually sat down beside Lu Yun, she probably didn't even realize it herself. She hadn't been looking for a seat. She'd been looking for something steady to lean on. She knew better than anyone that her title as a teacher in this post-apocalyptic world was hanging by a thread. The rules were gone, and authority had become little more than a fragile shell, wearing thin with every passing day. Lu Yun had been carrying the brunt of the burden, shouldering the responsibilities she could no longer bear alone. She'd come over because this man made her feel safe. She asked, "In your eyes, what do you think of me?" Questions like this, especially from a woman, usually come with an answer already in mind. They just want to hear it said out loud. Lu Yun didn't respond with words. Instead, he reached out, pulling her gently into his arms. Ku Yun instinctively started to resist, one hand pushing against his chest. "I'm a teacher," she murmured, a feeble declaration, more of a reminder to herself than any kind of warning to him about crossing a line. Lu Yun simply replied, "If you push me away now, I promise I'll never cross that line again." No cajoling, no insistence. Just one clear choice, offered plainly. Ku Yun closed her eyes. Her lashes trembled for a moment, and then the tension in her hand dissolved. She let go completely, surrendering, letting herself fall softly into his embrace. The corner of Lu Yun's mouth curved up, not with the naive joy of a boy, but with the calculated precision of a hunter. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act. Lu Yun had been waiting, watching, and when the time came, he simply acted. On a hillside not far away, no one was aware of what lay buried beneath the earth. The torrential rain swept away part of a mound of dirt, exposing something beneath. What appeared first was hair, black, slick with mud, splayed out in bedraggled strands under the rainfall. Then came a forehead, closed eyelids, a sharply defined nose, and finally, pale lips devoid of color. The face was stunningly beautiful, so much so that it felt almost unnervingly unreal, as if some artist had painstakingly sculpted it, only for it to be hidden away beneath the soil. The rain continued to fall, its heavy droplets landing on the face. After a long moment, the eyelashes stirred, once, then again. And then the eyes opened. There was no pain in them, no confusion, just an expanse of emptiness, a void so complete it seemed emotions had never existed there at all. She didn't move immediately. She simply lay there, letting the rain pummel her body for another 5 minutes, before finally propping herself up with a hand and slowly, deliberately, pulling herself free from the wet earth. Once she stood upright, she closed her eyes. Her consciousness stretched outward, taking in the trees, the rocks, the pooling water, the small animals shivering in hollowed-out tree trunks, and, farther than all of that, the shifting shapes of human figures struggling to move through the storm's fury. Each and every heat source registered in her mind with pinpoint precision, as if it were just within arm's reach. She opened her eyes once more, her voice raspy from disuse. "There are quite a few people this time." Her words echoed softly, and as they did, she staggered. One step. Her freshly awakened body was pushed to its limits, barely able to stand. But she paused only for a moment. Then, in a low voice, she said just one thing. "Let the rain grow heavier." And it really did. The downpour around her intensified dramatically. This wasn't a prayer, nor was it some idle remark. It was a command. She knew exactly where they were. She was weak, still shaking off the haze of slumber, but her sharp mind had already begun working. The torrential rain tortured everyone throughout the night. And it was in this moment, amidst the chaos, that the rabbit made an appearance. The chatroom was still flooded with furious messages when the rabbit, with her usual cutesy yet infuriating tone, cheerfully announced, "There are supply crates scattered in this storm. Food, medicine, tools. Maybe even something that'll make you stronger." Her cheerful voice, dripping with feigned innocence, made everyone grit their teeth in frustration, as always. The angry messages froze momentarily before erupting into a new choir of chaos. Some claimed it was a trap. Others doubted they'd survive another day without taking a chance. A few completely broke down. Better to risk everything than wait around to die. The rabbit had achieved exactly what she wanted. She had thrown poison bait into a starving pack of wolves, all while sitting comfortably on the sidelines to enjoy the show. Inside the cliffside cabin, the fire crackled warmly in the hearth. The scent of roasted fish filled the air. Outside was a tempest. Inside, it was all cozy blankets and carefree laughter. Shu Qianxue lounged lazily on the large bed, stretching contentedly. There was no reason to leave the comfort of the cabin on a night like this. No supply crate was worth wading through a storm as wild as this one. But then Xia Jin spoke up. "What if there really is something in those crates that could make us stronger?" Those words instantly turned the room tense. Power meant everything on this island. If another tribe managed to seize the advantage with these supplies, trouble wouldn't wait until tomorrow. It would come crashing down immediately. All eyes eventually landed on Lu Yun. He held an unused trump card, a skill called Lucky Compass, which had a fortune seek mode capable of pinpointing the highest value target currently within range. It meant he wouldn't have to stumble blindly through the storm. One precise search could locate something valuable, and then he'd retreat at once. The risks were there, but manageable. I'll go out and take a look, Lu Yun decided. He laid out the plan calmly. I'll use the compass, scout things out, and return immediately, no matter the outcome. Before his words had fully settled, Xia Jin was already on her feet. I'm coming with you. You just recovered. You can't go out alone. Her crimson eyes bore into him, leaving no room for debate. Without a word, Lu Yun nodded in agreement. Shu Qianxue wanted to join too, but Lu Yun shut that idea down immediately. The tribe needed someone with her rare combat skills to stay and guard the base. Plus, he wasn't about to let her take such a risk. She opened her mouth to argue, but quickly caught the look in his eyes. With a slight pout, she muttered, "Fine. Just be careful, okay?" The two geared up and headed for the door. The moment the wooden door cracked open, icy rain and fierce wind blasted through like a battering ram, instantly dropping the temperature in the cabin. Shu Qianxue shivered and snapped. Close it. Close it. Are you trying to freeze us to death? Lu Bao, get out already. You're letting all the warmth escape. Half drenched and freezing, Lu Yun found himself speechless. Here he was, heading out into mortal danger as the tribe's leader, and yet he was being scolded for disturbing the coziness indoors. Dragging Xia Jin along, he pushed the door open fully and stepped out into the storm. The door shut behind them, sealing away the warmth of the cabin. Outside, it was nothing but darkness and unrelenting rain. The compass's pointer didn't lie, but what it led Lu Yun to this time was entirely beyond his expectations. Guided through the near-zero visibility storm, Lu Yun and Xia Jin pressed southeastward, eventually arriving at an ancient, twisted tree. The landscape around it was eerily empty. Xia Jin scanned the area but saw nothing out of place. Based on the compass, there should have been a crate here, or at least something visible. But the pointer remained stubbornly fixed at this location. Lu Yun couldn't shake a sense of unease. He recalled a previous mishap when the compass had led them underground to a hidden zombie nest. This time, too, something felt ominous. Almost unconsciously, he lifted his gaze, following the direction indicated by the pointer. The way the rain fell in one specific spot, the angle, slight as it was, seemed wrong, as if the drops were curving around something. The light bent faintly in that same space, barely imperceptible to the naked eye. To an ordinary person, the anomaly would have gone unnoticed. But Lu Yun's spatial awareness was finely honed. The distortion stood out to him like a needle prick in his vision. He focused intently on the oddity, and slowly, the camouflage began to unravel. It was a woman. Her tattered white robes clung to her icy, pale skin, and her face was so devoid of color it seemed translucent. She leaned weakly against the tree, as though she might collapse at any moment. But her eyes, those piercing violet eyes, held a gaze unlike anything Lu Yun had ever encountered. Even in her debilitated state, the look she cast at him wasn't defensive nor fearful. It was detached and dispassionate, like a human contemplating an anthill. Lu Yun cursed internally. A heavy, sinking realization hit him. This woman was no ordinary person. The storm had woken her prematurely. She hadn't woken naturally. Her powers were still far from restored. The people who once obeyed her, perhaps slumbering underground, weren't responding to her calls. She was, for all intents, defenseless, so weakened that even a level 1 novice could potentially threaten her life. She had hidden herself well. Twisting rain patterns to bend light was the most economical camouflage her depleted powers could muster. But against the compass, none of it mattered. The moment she sensed the ancient artifact pointing to her location, it was already too late. In the exact instant Lu Yun realized the truth, Xia Jin's blade had already found its way to the woman's throat. The woman's gaze flickered, moving from the compass in Lu Yun's hand to the markings on Xia Jin's blade. She recognized those wild, intricate patterns immediately. A berserker, she said. It wasn't a question. Her tone was flat, matter-of-fact, as though identifying a label on a jar. Hearing those 3 words, both Xia Jin and Lu Yun tensed. It wasn't her accuracy that startled them. It was the dismissiveness in her voice. She spoke as if the title carried no weight at all. Lu Yun's mind raced at lightning speed. The compass wasn't often wrong. It had pinned her down for one of two reasons. She was either a unique opportunity or a high-value target. And from where he stood, she was likely both. Humans have little strength, yet he casually saw through the class of a berserker. The way he looked at that person was as if observing an insignificant ant. Whatever this thing was before, Lu Yun still couldn't figure it out. But there was a more immediate problem. How would he explain if he brought her back to the clan? A group of girls were gathered by the fireplace, waiting for him to return. And here he was, braving a storm to come back with a mysterious woman whose face was as pale as paper, dangerous and stunningly beautiful. What would Shu Qianxue think? What about Kuyun? And how would the others gossip about him behind his back? Just picturing the scene made Lu Yun's scalp tingle. But the compass called this fate. Lu Yun tightened his grip on the compass. He didn't sheath his blade, but instead returned his gaze to those deep violet eyes. In the torrential rain, Lu Yun told Xia Jin to put her sword away. He walked forward alone. This woman was clearly out of the ordinary, pale, composed, and staring at him with her deep purple eyes as calm as an abyss. A normal person at this moment would think about how to escape. Lu Yun's first words, however, were, "Hello there, gorgeous." Xia Jin nearly thought her ears were playing tricks on her. The mysterious woman's eyes widened briefly, ever so slightly. She had only ever encountered two types of humans, those who fled or those who knelt before her. No one had ever called her gorgeous. This ant was amusing. "You found me. What do you intend to do with me?" Her voice was calm, a genuine question awaiting his answer, without a trace of threat. It was only then Lu Yun realized he had no plan. The compass had led him here. He had assumed it would be some treasure, but it turned out to be a living, breathing person instead. He hesitated for a few seconds before tentatively asking if she had any protective artifacts. She didn't. Then he inquired about blueprints or skill books. Also no. Finally, he asked, "So, do you have anything?" The woman looked down at her rain-soaked white robe and replied with detachment, "Just a white robe." Leaving empty-handed wasn't Lu Yun's style. Lowering his voice, he blurted out, somewhat provocatively, if he could take it. Even he felt like he was tempting fate with that question. A glimmer of emotion flashed through the mysterious woman's eyes, but she simply shrugged, quietly answering, "As you wish." Her arms hung loosely at her sides, her demeanor indifferent and unconcerned. Lu Yun stepped forward, and the closer proximity made the pressure more palpable. Her beauty was almost otherworldly, with a coldness that seemed to belong to someone of high standing. But the moment he touched her, his mind blanked out for a second. "Aunt, you're brave." Her tone wasn't angry, which in itself was absurd. She was a disaster-level existence, someone before whom most would either run or grovel. And yet, strangely enough, she found herself unable to summon any hatred for this particular ant before her. The unseen effects of the SSS rank clan leader's innate blessing were at play, even if she herself wasn't aware of it. Lu Yun muttered something like "couldn't help it" as a half-hearted apology, but his hand didn't budge. She asked him what else he planned to do. He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned in and kissed her. The mysterious woman froze on the spot. When he pulled back, there was no rage on her face, only the faintest smile that gradually surfaced. Her voice carried genuine surprise. "Since my creation, you're the first to dare treat me this way." As she finished speaking, a surge of deep violet lightning crackled at her fingertips, grazing his throat. That violet lightning, though it passed lightly, carried with it the unmistakable aura of annihilation, a force of destruction incomparable to mere symbolism. It was absolute and real. "But I don't hate you for it," she said, her voice still carrying that calm, superior indifference, as though looking down on the entire world. Lu Yun met her endlessly deep eyes and suddenly smirked. "Think I'm scared?" He leaned in again, this time more daring and much deeper than before. Her pupils contracted sharply, the violet lightning at her fingertips. When her figure finally dissolved into rain and completely dispersed, cold sweat had already soaked through the back of Lu Yun's shirt. He stood rooted in place, unable to move. It wasn't that he didn't want to, it was that his legs felt weak. He had been holding himself together too hard during those moments earlier, projecting bravery far beyond what came naturally. Kissing a woman who could reduce him to ash at a whim, and then casually asking if it had felt good. Every bit of calm he showed was pure performance. The reality was, every flicker of that violet lightning at her hand made him all too aware that it wasn't just for show. It wasn't decoration. It was pure destruction calculating whether to erase him on the spot. Calamity class. Those two words combined were beyond mere strength. It was another level entirely. A being that looked down on him as one would a speck of dust. Before leaving, she had tossed him one last sentence. Next time we meet, if you can make it alive to my side. The words themselves cut like a blade. A sharp one delivered with a smile. Lu Yun gripped Xia Jin's wrist and spoke faster than his expression could change. Let's go. That woman is something else. Move. The rain was still pouring, each drop hitting his skin with a dull ache. As they made their way back to the encampment, Lu Yun's mind raced between replaying those few seconds of life and death tension and drifting to something else entirely. What had he and Baiyu planned to experiment with tonight again? Baiyu's expressionless face lingered in his thoughts, faintly visible in the rain's haze. He wondered, in the middle of their experiments. Lu Yun. Xia Jin's voice snapped him back. She looked at him from the corner of her eye, her crimson irises carrying an air of curiosity. What are you thinking about? Lu Yun's face instantly turned serious. He sighed deeply, lowering his tone. Thinking about tomorrow, the defense layout once the zombies fully awaken, how to allocate manpower, how to minimize losses. His expression was grave, his brows furrowed as if he'd truly been lost in thought. Xia Jin kept her gaze on him without immediately responding. Rainwater slid off her drenched hair as she turned her attention back to the rain-soaked path ahead, her voice softening just a bit. Let's get back safely first. Everyone's. Let's figure this out together. Lu Yun nodded, quietly letting out a sigh of relief. Dodge that one. Just as the two rounded a dirt slope that had been washed away by the flood, the campsite barely visible in the distance, Xia Jin suddenly stopped and lowered his voice. Look on the left. Along the edge of a pile of rocks lay a gray-blue metal box, half buried in the mud. Faintly visible through the rain was the unmistakable mark of that infuriating rabbit logo. Lu Yun's eyes lit up. They hauled the box out and pried open the latch with a short blade. With a satisfying click, the lid popped open. Inside were two items, tightly wrapped in waterproof oilcloth. They opened the first package, a transparent bed curtain. Semi-translucent fabric that allowed light to seep through while obscuring details, striking a balance between privacy and illumination. Lu Yun and Xia Jin exchanged a glance, but didn't say anything as they moved on to the second bundle. This one was lighter. Inside wasn't an object, but a schematic diagram. Automatic heated bathtub assembly instructions, requiring 10 units of stone, 10 units of wood, equipped with a built-in sprinkler, a concealed water tank, temperature control buttons, and a microspace rift for seamless drainage that disintegrated wastewater into basic particles. The cheeky note below read, "Because even in survival, you deserve a good bath." Lu Yun took a deep breath. A transparent bed curtain, luxurious bathtub blueprints, a post-apocalypse survival crate. What's wrong with that ridiculous rabbit company? Xia Jin didn't comment. Instead, he ran his hand over the bed curtain and said calmly, "As long as it's useful, at least the curtain will give us some privacy." Lu Yun stuffed the items back into the box, straightened up, and fixed his gaze on the direction of the camp. By tomorrow, the zombies would fully awaken. Whatever time they had left was just tonight. The rain hadn't stopped yet. When the two pushed open the door, the girls inside the shelter swarmed them at once, crowding the entrance with worry, lingering fear, and an overwhelming flurry of questions mixed with the comforting warmth of the roaring fire. Outside was a merciless, icy rainstorm. Inside was a glowing haven, a world apart. And then came the inevitable, most pressing question. Did you find the box? Lu Yun and Xia Jin exchanged a look. Xia Jin's expression clearly said, "You're on your own this time." Lu Yun cleared his throat and pulled the first item out of his storage space. A voluminous wad of semi-transparent white fabric spilled into his hands. Ku Yun was the first to take it and spread it out, prompting 3 solid seconds of dead silence in the room. The girls stared at the thin, gauzy material, then at the large bed waiting nearby, and finally at Lu Yun, their faces contorting as imaginations ran wild about the so-called experiments between him and Baiyu. Someone dropped their head, someone else's lips twitched upward despite themselves, and one girl simply turned her face away, flustered. Lu Yun felt a creeping sense of unease. Thankfully, the second item came to the rescue. Automatic heated bathtub assembly instructions. These words burst through the awkwardness like a spark igniting fireworks. A bathtub. Wait, a hot water bathtub. And it only takes 10 minutes? Shu Qianxue practically leapt to her feet. After days of unrelenting fatigue, bone-chilling cold, and washing with icy seawater, those words were like an oasis in the middle of a desert. That kind of joy was raw and utterly genuine. A chance for a real, hot bath mattered more than any weapon in this post-apocalyptic world. As the excitement simmered down, Yishi's face flushed slightly as she asked shyly, "But if we're bathing inside the shelter, doesn't that mean Lu Yun will be nearby?" Chen Xiaolin waved dismissively, clearly unfazed. "As if it matters. We've all been through enough. Privacy's long gone out the window." Ku Yun came up with a compromise. "How about we just schedule baths when he's not around?" The girls who had been hesitant quickly breathed a collective sigh of relief and nodded in agreement. The issue could have ended there. But Lin Lu blinked innocently and chimed in. "But Lu Yun, don't you need to bathe too? You're covered in mud." For a brief moment, the room's atmosphere turned awkward. And then, from Chun Xiaolin's direction, came a loud and distinct gulp. Every eye in the room, including Lu Yun's, instantly snapped toward her. Chun Xiaolin froze, mouth slightly ajar, staring directly at Lu Yun. The next second, her face flushed crimson, not the kind of embarrassed red, but the kind that screamed caught red-handed, with zero room for denial. "It was just instinct," she blurted, her neck stiff. "Come on, it's Lu Yun. Taking a bath." No one laughed at her, mostly because none of them were in a position to. Lu Yun scanned the room, acutely aware of the predatory glints in every gaze. He felt like prey suddenly realizing it was trapped in a den of wolves. Chen Xiaolin, ever quick on her feet, composed herself and spoke in a voice dripping with faux altruism. "Anyway, Lu Yun, you've been out in the freezing rain for so long. You should go ahead and take a hot bath first." But her eyes had already given her away. Holding the schematic, Lu Yun's mind raced through a mental decision tree. Deep down, he knew the truth. There wasn't really a choice at all. He tried to reason with them. 10 units of wood, 10 units of stone. Materials were far too scarce to be frivolous. They should save a luxury like this for when resources were more abundant, right? Rational sound. His argument barely lasted 2 seconds before Chen Xiaolin smacked it down. She declared she'd wake up before dawn to gather materials in the rain if she had to. Lin Lu chimed in. "I'll go too," sweetening the deal with, "Hot baths improve productivity. This is all about survival." Their logic was airtight. Their resolve, unshakable. Lu Yun glanced toward Ku Yun for backup, but she deliberately avoided meeting his eyes. It was over. Lu Yun surrendered, raising his hands in defeat. The moment he nodded, Chen Xiaolin's grin spilled out faster than her brain could regulate, and she blurted, "Yes, I get to see Lu Yun take a bath." The room went silent for a beat. Every eye turned to Chen Xiaolin. She stared at the ceiling, her face remarkably neutral, as if nothing had happened. It felt as if those words had drifted in from another dimension. Lu Yun immediately clung to this lifeline. "Wait," he said, "someone's got ulterior motives. We need to rethink this." Then he saw Lin Lu, her innocent eyes wide, asking, "What are you talking about, Lu Bao?" Who spoke? Wasn't it just the wind? The girls around them instantly nodded in agreement. "Yeah, what sound? You're imagining things. Maybe you're catching a cold. You should take a shower, quick." Lu Yun stayed silent for a moment, then resigned himself with a nod. Once the bathtub had been synthesized, Chun Xiaolin was the first to rush over to fill it with water and press the heating button. The atmosphere in the room immediately shifted into something more charged. The girls exchanged meaningful glances, their eyes occasionally drifting toward Lu Yun. Lin Lu elbowed him lightly, nudging him forward. "Go on." Standing by the bathtub with his back to everyone, Lu Yun hadn't even managed to say a word before Chen Xiaolin blurted out, "Lu Bao, are your arms and legs okay? Should I help you undress?" The entire room collectively gasped. It was the kind of suggestion most people would only dare to keep to themselves. But Chen Xiaolin had just openly asked if she should lend a hand. Lu Yun turned her down. Qin Xiaolin's face fell immediately, her disappointment almost comically obvious. Outside, the torrential rain continued to pound relentlessly. The whole wooden cabin was enveloped in the sound of rain. The warmth of the crackling fire in the hearth stood in stark contrast to the muddy, storm-drenched world outside. They seemed like two entirely different realms. After his bath, Lu Yun wrapped himself in furs and leaned against the fireplace. His exhaustion felt like it had been drained from his very bones, and for the first time in what felt like ages, he let out a long, relieved breath. In weather like this, a hot bath felt like an unimaginable luxury. But this indulgence didn't last long. Qin Xiaolin was, quite bluntly, shameless. From the moment Lu Yun stepped into the bathtub, she had dragged over a wooden stool, plopped herself down directly in front of him, cupped her chin in her hands, and openly watched. By the time he exited the bath, she nodded, as though concluding that she had just witnessed an enjoyable performance. There was no point telling her to act more modestly. She wouldn't listen. Lu Yun couldn't even muster the energy to argue. He found a spot by the fire, sat down, and opened the island's group chat channel. The chat was a disaster zone. Someone's straw hut was about to collapse from the rainwater. Another had found a box left by the rabbits, only to open it and find nothing but stockings. Yet another unlucky soul had discovered a book titled Postpartum Care for Sows, and they hadn't even seen so much as a pig hair. After skimming the chaos for a moment, Lu Yun quietly closed the channel. Reflecting on the bathtub blueprint and the bed curtains he had found in his latest box, he realized, in hindsight, he'd lucked out. Just then, Baiyu sat down beside him. Not casually at some neutral distance, right up next to him. She turned slightly, her voice lowered. "Are you ready for tonight's experiment?" Lu Yun turned to look at her. Baiyu, who spent most of her time in a lab, had skin as pale as someone who'd never set foot in the outdoors. Yet her gaze carried its usual seriousness. "I'm ready." Baiyu was different. She stood apart in Lu Yun's mind. The day they learned about the chief's gift, the room had been filled with a tense silence, the sort where no one knew how to start the conversation. Baiyu had been the first to step forward, breaking that awkward stillness. The first one to step forward is always the hardest to forget. There were still a few hours till nighttime. The girls lined up, waiting their turn to use the bath. Qin Xiaolin chattered endlessly nearby, her voice competing with the sound of rain pounding on the rooftop. But Lu Yun's focus had already drifted elsewhere. What exactly was Baiyu's experiment about tonight? The cabin remained lively with laughter, though no one seemed to notice her. Night she sat alone in a shadowed corner, her face bearing that polite, poised smile everyone was so used to seeing. A calm, courteous expression that suggested she was simply zoning out in thought. But her hand, resting on her knee, told another story. Her fingernails had unknowingly dug into her palm, deeper and deeper. The source of the laughter was Qin Xiaolin, who had just set herself up for embarrassment. She'd stood inside the bathtub, waited for Lu Yun to approach, and then let her furs drop as she turned on the sprayer. Under the spray of water and the flicker of firelight, she spun around boldly. "Little treat for you," she'd quipped. She had likely expected Lu Yun to panic, to avert his gaze in embarrassment, stammering as he awkwardly handed her the furs and fled. Instead, Lu Yun just stood there and looked at her for a full 10 seconds, not moving. In the end, it was Qin Xiaolin who broke first. Her smile froze, a bright red flush creeping up from her ears. She ducked down abruptly, burying her head against her knees, mumbling, "Don't just stare like that. You're gonna make me shy." By the fireplace, the other girls couldn't hold back their laughter any longer. Serves her right. Always messing with Lu Bao. The whole room relaxed after this round of antics. Night she smiled too. Or rather, she kept her smile in place. She watched Baiyu naturally edging closer to Lu Yun, her movements light and effortless. The sight of it made She's chest feel as if it were weighed down by a boulder. Whatever was going to happen tonight was no longer up for debate. It was a certainty. Baiyu would have tonight, and night she would remain where she was, sitting in silence, listening, waiting, and amounting to nothing. She envied Baiyu. She envied Shu Qianxue too. But what devastated her more was the aching jealousy she felt for her past self. The self who once had a chance but chose not to act on it. If time were to rewind, would things be different? Night she had asked herself this countless times before. And every time, She came to the same conclusion. She'd still make the same choice. That was the most maddening part. She didn't hate the others. She hated herself for her lack of courage. The rain had started to ease. Night had deepened. Bayu was the last to finish bathing. Pulling aside the bed curtain, she stood under the moonlight and calmly announced, "The experiment environment is ready." Outside the curtain, a few people exchanged glances. One bit their lip, desperately holding back the words, "It's about to begin." Through the semi-transparent fabric, only a silhouette outlined by the moonlight was visible. Bayu's expression remained as composed as ever, clear, calm, as if she were preparing for a routine test she had meticulously planned in advance. But as her face moved closer to Lu Yun's, just as her lips were about to touch his, he paused. Lifting his eyes, he looked at her. "Lu Yun, your heart rate has risen to approximately 110 beats per minute, and your body surface temperature has increased by 0.8 degrees Celsius." She said this while pressed intimately close to him, her tone clinical, like giving a report. Lu Yun could feel the warm breath she exhaled as she spoke. There was no calming himself. He answered truthfully. "When the experiment reaches its deeper stages," Bayu's lips curved up slightly, "your heart rate will skyrocket even faster than mine, and your body temperature will rise higher." She paused. This experiment might turn out to be quite interesting. Then, without a trace of hesitation or emotional fluctuation, she leaned in and kissed him. It felt like she was verifying a hypothesis whose outcome she already knew. When the kiss ended, she relinquished control, her tone still calm. "The next phase of the experiment will be led by someone experienced, you. I'm looking forward to it." Lu Yun gazed into her eyes, so clear they were almost unnervingly transparent. A question had been circling in his mind, and now he finally voiced it. "What kind of experimental subject am I?" Bayu did not answer right away. Her hand reached out, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat. She paused for a moment before speaking, her tone as steady as if stating a universal truth. "This experiment requires the highest quality subject. You are the only one who meets all my criteria. Unique, irreplaceable, and immutable." Another pause followed. "This experiment can only proceed with you." Lu Yun thought he caught a glimpse of something in her eyes, buried deep, but present. It was possessiveness. When Lu Yun awoke, the rain had already stopped. The first sensation was the weight in his arm and the soft warmth pressed beside him. Bayu was curled up next to him like a sleeping cat, her delicate cheeks still faintly flushed. The usual composed and self-possessed expression she carried was mostly gone, replaced by an undisturbed tranquility as she breathed evenly. The same person who described kisses as dopamine intake now quietly rested against him. The light outside was still dim. Lu Yun lay still and watched her for a while. Tomorrow, the zombies would come. This wasn't a metaphor or a prediction. That rabbit had specified the time, tomorrow. Lu Yun had counted the days with his fingers. Today was the final day. The window he had left was no more than a handful of hours. The first thing he did upon opening his eyes wasn't to check the time, but to listen to the system prompt. Tribal leaders blessing activated. Random reward distribution in progress. Congratulations, you have received Defense Keystone. Lu Yun turned the term over in his mind, and his heartbeat quickened. The Keystone's function was straightforward. It enhanced the defensive power and durability of a designated structure by one level permanently. Simple on paper, but Lu Yun knew all too well how valuable that truly was. Right now, the tribe's wooden huts might as well be made of paper against the zombies. But with this keystone, these wooden huts could upgrade to stone fortifications, and if they were later replaced by stone buildings, those could turn into fortresses of steel. Building upgrades became exponentially harder as time went on. This keystone effectively ensured their defenses would always be 1 or 2 ages ahead, and this increase was permanent, immune to wear or decay over time. In the early days of an apocalypse, such a resource was practically priceless. But the system hadn't finished. Life bonding behavior detected. Participants, Bayu. Job transition probability assessment underway. Assessment complete. New class options unlocked. Please guide the subject to choose. There were 2 options. Option A, Rule Weaver, marked as unique. The description was brief but striking. Bound by the laws of existence, I will become the laws themselves. Option B, Sovereign of Abundance, marked as rare. This one was more relatable. I cheat at farming, plant anything, and it grows. Whatever you desire, I can cultivate. A unique class, the ultimate potential of which was unimaginable, was, by its very label, superior to rare classes. But Sovereign of Abundance, while seemingly agricultural, held astonishing implications. Plant anything, and it grows. What if there were no limits to anything? Plant crops, and you get food. Plant herbs, and you get medicine. But what if you planted iron ore? What if you planted a weapon? Both paths promised the power to reshape the situation. Lu Yun detailed the two career options to Bai Yu. Bai Yu rested her finger against her chin, pondering for only a brief moment before decisively speaking. I choose Rule Weaver. Light flowed into her body. She opened her interface and read aloud her new abilities to Lu Yun. Rule Ignorance, passive, grants a chance to bypass a rule. Mass Control, temporarily alters the mass of an object. It seemed simplistic and in its initial stage, but Lu Yun understood that these were only early manifestations of a profession intrinsically designed to defy all rules. The further it progressed, the more it would transcend limitations. For now, though, there wasn't time to dwell on it. Today's priority was singular: assess the actual combat readiness of the group. The combat trainees, mostly women, were woken up and groggily followed down to the training area. Shu Qianxue rubbed her eyes sleepily and asked what was going on. Lu Yun's tone was steady and devoid of emotion. We need to figure out your current strength level. Tomorrow, you'll be facing zombies head-on. A palpable tension settled in. Just days ago, they were college students. Now, they were being evaluated for their ability to survive against hordes of the undead, which was enough to make anyone stiffen. But Lu Yun noticed someone already training in the woods below. Xia Jin was alone, wielding her blood-red longsword. The blade flashed rapidly, leaving afterimages as she practiced cutting through tree trunks the thickness of a man's arm. No one had pushed her to train. No one was watching. Yet there she was, bathed in the soft morning light, honing her skills. Standing at the edge of the woods, Lu Yun silently took it all in. There are people who don't need to be told what's at stake. The pressure had already placed her where she needed to be. The real question was the team's overall strength, something they wouldn't know until tomorrow, when all bets were off. Bai Yu, standing beside him, calmly lifted the keystone. Would be significantly reduced. A massive boulder, easily weighing several hundred pounds, suddenly left the ground. The area fell completely silent. No one uttered a sound because the truly shocking part hadn't even occurred yet. The moment the boulder surged into the air, its weight multiplied several times over in an instant, thanks to Bai Yu. With a powerful crash, it smashed into a thick tree at the edge of the forest. The tree trunk snapped cleanly in half, and even its roots shifted slightly from the impact. Standing at the edge of the cliff, Lu Yun felt his heart skip a beat. A weaver of rules. He'd read the official description of this profession before, but seeing it in action was something else entirely. Mass could be reduced or amplified, with precise control over timing. This meant Bai Yu could essentially turn any ordinary object into a delayed explosive, detonated exactly when she chose. Lu Yun's gaze swept over the open clearing. Over the past few days, the tribe had been showcasing their finest combat abilities. Xia Jin had her moment early on. She didn't even bother using a skill. With a casual swing of her arm, she cleaved through a tree as thick as a bowl, cutting it in half and watching it fall to the ground as the spectators gasped. A berserker's dominance didn't lie in intricate techniques, but in raw, savage power that grew fiercer with every strike. Skills were merely an added bonus. Similarly, Shu Qianxue's single punch wasn't flashy at all. Her stance was awkward, but with one solid thud, the tree trunk snapped at the point of impact, its upper half crashing to the ground in a cloud of dust. The name Destroyer was straightforward, and so was its devastating effect. Watching the three of them together, Lu Yun felt reassured that he'd chosen the right location. He turned away, facing the girls sparring nearby, and let his gaze fall on the narrow uphill path leading to the mountain. Xia Jin was standing outside the sparring circle, arms crossed, her crimson eyes scanning the participants. Her voice was sharp, like a blade slicing through the air. Too slow. Zombies won't wait for you to get into position. Immediately, the girls tightened their stances, their punches and kicks becoming more focused and serious. Lu Yun leaned closer to Bai Yu and whispered, "Has your threat assessment model been finalized?" Bai Yu gave a slight nod. "This cliff gives us a defensive advantage at least 3 times better than flat terrain. The danger comes from only one direction, and the slope naturally slows down the zombies, giving us a much larger window to react." Mentally reviewing the details, Lu Yun confirmed they aligned with his initial decision to establish their base here. While other tribes struggled with defenses in all directions, they only needed to focus on the single path leading up the mountain. This wasn't pure luck, it had been a calculated choice before ever setting foot in the mountains. At some point, Xia Jin had finished supervising the training and silently appeared by his side. She gazed down the slope and spoke in a calm tone. "Tell me your plan." Lu Yun pointed to the bottom of the path. "The first line, the forward kill zone. Before the zombie horde even reaches us, I'll go down first. With Bai Yu's analysis of the scouting points, I'll use spatial teleportation to perform specific recon in the forest below the slope. My goal will be to identify the size and direction of the lead zombies. If their numbers are manageable, we won't wait for them to come up. We'll attack first. Small teams of 3 will move out, guided by coordinates I provide in real time, to surgically eliminate the threats." Xia Jin's eyes brightened slightly, and a faint smirk tugged at her lips. Picking them off one by one from the shadows, she mused, her voice low. "A lot more interesting than sitting here waiting for them to charge." The plan suited her temperament perfectly. To Xia Jin, passive defense felt like a slow, draining death. Aggressive offense was the only real answer. The second line is at the base of the slope, a barricade of trees. Lu Yun's hand moved upward, stopping at the densest section of forest. He hadn't even finished explaining before some of the sharper minds in the group began piecing it together. What did a tree barricade mean? How would it be constructed? Who would defend it? And what would happen once it was breached? The answers weren't fully clear yet, but one thing was, this team needed more than just extra manpower. What they truly required was to ensure the first kill zone held as long as possible during execution. Because if the first line failed, the pressure on the later defenses would skyrocket. At its essence, the defense strategy was simple, not to protect every direction, but to force the enemy into a single choke point. Walls of wood would block the sides, leaving only the center open. No matter how large the zombie horde, the ones advancing through the gap would come in a narrow line. Lu Yun outlined the plan from the first interception zone to the final wooden barricade near their headquarters. By the time he finished, the girls listening had visibly relaxed. They were no longer frozen in despair, waiting for overwhelming doom. Instead, they realized they were setting a trap, not just bracing for impact. But Lu Yun's real efforts weren't focused on the physical defenses. As the girls began constructing the fortifications, he quietly connected to the broader communication channel. The channel was complete chaos. Tribe 03 was loudly advocating for an alliance, shouting phrases like, "No one can survive alone," and "strength in unity." Half the people derided them for scheming to annex weaker tribes, while the other half argued over how resources would be divided and who would shoulder the risks. On just the first day of the apocalypse, humans hadn't even started dying yet, but trust was already on the verge of collapse. Lu Yun ignored the noise. He posted one concise message, short, sharp, like a nail hammered in tight. "There are zombies underground, right beneath your feet. When the time comes, they'll break through the surface." The channel exploded. Some called him a fearmonger. Others demanded to know the source of his information. A few remembered his reputation, like the time he destroyed Tribe 14, and switched gears in their responses almost instantly. Lu Yun didn't explain. He closed the channel and turned back to moving wooden logs. And not long after, the truth emerged. One tribe unearthed them. Apologies and thanks poured in. Those who had cursed him most viciously were suddenly finding the politest ways to respond. To outsiders, it seemed like a meaningful warning. But Lu Yun knew better. He needed the other tribes to stay busy, preoccupied with their own survival and clearing threats near their territories. That way, they wouldn't have time to watch his camp too closely. Plus, the more tribes that survived, the more the zombie hordes would be divided. When the undead wave finally arrived, the pressure on his team would be far less crushing. A fraction less. This is a calculation of interests, not charity. From the very beginning, he never intended to place the girls' lives on the thin thread of anyone's unity. At the same time, deeper within the island, in a hidden cave, someone else was attuned to the unfolding events. Tianzai Li sat in the depths of the cavern, her silhouette surrounded by a faint lavender glow. Delicate and elusive as if it could dissolve into the air at any second, but somehow stayed firm. Her eyes were closed, but her senses expanded far beyond her, stretching beneath the very ground. Her people were awakening. The sound of claws tearing through soil echoed from all directions, a chorus of significance. The corners of her lips lifted ever so slightly. It wasn't a smile born of joy. Rather, it felt calculated, like a program executing its designated function. And then, the curve of her lips froze. Something was off. In the depths of that cavern, a pair of deep purple eyes opened softly. It wasn't the noise that woke her, it was the presence. Throughout the entire island, ancient forces, dormant for years, seemed to stir, their vibrations akin to the pitch an animal hears before an earthquake. Only predators of the highest order could detect such a frequency before it arrived. Rising gracefully, her white robe brushing silently against the jagged stone floor, she reached the mouth of the cave and gazed briefly toward the cliffs beyond. The trace of that insolent ant who dared to disrespect her presence lingered faintly. She spoke but one sentence. "Will you be the first dust to crumble beneath my feet, or the stone that manages to make a rippling splash?" With that, she turned, lowering herself into a cross-legged position once more. The lavender glow re-emerged, darker, more vivid than before. She was in no hurry. Meanwhile, the oblivious humans, wholly unaware that they were but players in someone else's scheme, were preoccupied with their own matters. Dusk was close to enveloping the horizon, and the defensive lines had just been completed in time. The girls lay scattered around the wooden cabin, utterly exhausted, sprawled in every angle imaginable. Not a single one had the energy to so much as utter a word. With several hours left until the deadliest moments of early morning, this was their rare window of reprieve. Lu Yun sat in a corner. He intended to squeeze in some rest with his eyes closed when someone approached him. Shu Qianxue. Her cheeks faintly flushed, a few stray strands of hair clinging to her neck. She lowered her voice to almost an inaudible whisper. "Lu Bao, do you have a moment?" She had been waiting for this chance for 2 whole days. After transitioning into the role of a destroyer, her physical prowess was leagues beyond her former self. However, the bitter memory of that previous incident lingered like a thorn in her mind. Why was it always her who faltered or froze? She was determined to prove herself for once. Lu Yun glanced up, scanning her from head to toe with a blank expression. "What's the matter? Shouldn't this be time for catching up on rest?" His nonchalant response made Shu Qianxue's composure nearly crack. Abandoning her usual restraint, she grabbed hold of his wrist and tugged. But Lu Yun didn't budge an inch. Instead, he asked, completely straight-faced, why she was dragging him out into the dark, an expression so genuine that her simmering frustration boiled over. Shift in strategy. Carefully, she guided his hand upward and casually placed it on her leg. For a split second, Lu Yun's rationality evaporated. By the time he regained his senses, he felt as if he had been utterly foolish mere moments before. In one swift movement, he clasped her wrist in return, pulling her to her feet alongside him as he declared, with calm resolve, "I get it now. You've got something urgent to sort out." 2 seconds later, the wooden cabin's door was left wide open. The girls, still awake, exchanged incredulous glances. Lin Lu opened her mouth to comment, but before she could speak, Qin Xiaolin grinned mischievously and raised a finger, whispering, "Don't see, don't hear. Mind your business, everyone, get your rest." In one distant corner, Teacher Kuyun looked towards the tightly shut door, mixed feelings rippling through her heart. Nearing 30, she was arguably more overwhelmed by recent events than these college students. Behind a boulder, Shu Qianxue leaned back against the cold stone wall, her earlier momentum all but disappeared. "You were exceptionally bold back there," Lu Yun remarked nonchalantly, standing before her. I was just in a rush. In a rush to test your charm on me, or in a rush for me to heal you?" Her eyelashes quivered as she squeezed her eyes shut. Her reply was barely audible. "Both." Lu Yun chuckled faintly in response and chose not to press further. An hour later, Lin Lu glanced toward the door for the third time, unable to suppress her curiosity as she muttered, "It's been so long. They're still not back." Chun Xiaolin erupted with laughter, raising her voice suggestively. "Oh, Lin Lu, you're so innocent. You wouldn't understand." The wooden door creaked open at that very moment. Lu Yun returned, his expression calm, almost too calm. Trailing half a step behind him, Shu Qianxue appeared, her face flushed like someone who had been standing too close to an open flame. She headed straight for the most secluded corner, barely sitting down before Qin Xiaolin, leading the charge, gathered an assembly of giggling girls around her. They bombarded Shu Qianxue with teasing questions, grins full of mischief as they cornered her without escape. Under mounting pressure, Shu Qianxue finally whispered, so quietly it resembled a mosquito's buzz, a single word, comfortable. The room fell silent for a moment before erupting into a cacophony of laughter. Ku Yun, seated at a slight distance, kept her ears sharply tuned in. Waiting for the perfect moment, she stepped in with the authoritative tone of a teacher and diffused the scene. "All right, enough. Everyone disperse. We need to conserve our energy for tonight." The word tonight felt like an icy reminder, cooling the earlier warm humor. Though the zombies lurking outside hadn't fully awakened yet, their momentary reprieves were fleeting. Today's labor, fortifying their defense, practicing drills, recon, had left everyone on edge. The lighthearted joking was merely a borrowed moment of respite. As the girls retreated to their places, a deepening silence crept in once again. Lu Yun's gaze landed on the corner of the room, where a lucky spin wheel stood. Going up to Lin Lu, he posed his question, "What did today's spin yield?" Lin Lu froze for a second, her eyes darting nervously. She looked up and offered him a sheepish grin so guilty it gave everything away before she could even say the words. She had forgotten. Ha. After consecutively pulling out several game-changing items, she had earned the nickname Luck Goddess in hushed conversations. It wasn't entirely a joke, people were starting to believe it. But today, she forgot. Lu Yun didn't blame her. Everyone was as tense as a tightly wound spring. He reached out and ruffled Lin Li's slightly messy hair. It felt soft under his fingers, and then said just 2 words, "Go spin." Lin Lu immediately sprang to her feet like a coiled spring, dashing towards the wheel so quickly that she didn't even stop to fix her hair. The other girls watched her intently. The weight of tonight's stakes felt like it was pressing against the door. The right piece of gear or the right tool could be what determined whether they survived. Lin Lu stood in front of the wheel. Her hand was already in the air. When the pointer stopped, Lin Lu jumped up in excitement. It wasn't gold, but it was purple. On this level of wheel, purple was rare enough to make everyone hold their breath. Deep violet light exploded from the center of the wheel, solidifying a few seconds later into a visible form in front of her, a set of 10 handheld crossbows, suspended midair. The crossbows were gunmetal gray, intricately patterned, and each had 3 gleaming alloy bolts attached to its side. Lu Yun's eyes darkened slightly as he scanned the stats on the screen, then he looked up. It wasn't the range or the penetration power that caught his attention. It was this critical detail. After hitting a target, each bolt would automatically return and regenerate in its original position within 10 seconds. In theory, this meant these 10 crossbows would never run out of ammo. He took a few steps forward and, without hesitation, scooped up the still grinning Lin Lu into a hug. Lin Lu was caught off guard. Reflexively, she wrapped her arms around his neck, her cheeks turning bright red in an instant. Lu Yun seemed unbothered, though. He playfully pinched her cheek and told her she could name any reward she wanted. Lin Lu mumbled something under her breath, too embarrassed to finish her sentence before she darted away, still blushing. Lu Yun glanced at her retreating figure, then turned around and pushed his excitement down deep, letting his voice steady as he addressed the rest of the group. He didn't need sharpshooting prodigies. What he needed were people who could stay calm, keep a steady hand, and follow orders when chaos erupted. 10 slots. The girls enthusiastically raised their hands, offering all sorts of reasons. One claimed to have sharp eyesight, another touted her skills from a first-person shooter game, and still another brought up her experience in competitive esports. Lu Yun didn't comment. He simply gave the group a once-over before quickly selecting 10, including Chun Xiaolin and Yi Shi. The task of training them, He handed to Baiyu wasted no time. She grabbed one of the crossbows, walked outside, aimed at a tree 100 meters away, and rattled off a precise set of calculations. Initial velocity, drop rate, wind correction, before pulling the trigger. A branch snapped cleanly. She turned back to the group, her gaze calm as she swept over the 10 chosen, and said plainly, "Time is short. Let's begin." An hour later, the 10 crossbow users had completed basic training. Together with 5 melee fighters, the group was divided into 3 battle squads, each led by Xiajin, Shu Qinxue, or Baiyu. They began fortifying their positions along the wooden wall. The zombie onslaught was drawing near. Midnight hadn't even struck yet, and a few of the girls gripping their crossbows were already trembling. One of them couldn't help asking the person beside her, "Chen Xiaolin, are you scared?" Chen Xiaolin didn't give her any words of comfort. She simply replied, "I'm scared, but I'm more afraid of dying." Her words were cold and carried no warmth, but they worked better than any encouragement. The trembling girls nearby visibly straightened, their expressions hardening. That's right. Zombies were nothing. Death was the real end. If they chickened out now, there wouldn't be safety waiting for them, only a worse fate. The clock ticked to midnight. In the island-wide chat channel, the red bunny icon popped up again, its breezy tone chilling. Zombie Carnival starts now. Hope you all have fun. The points leaderboard is now live. Kill zombies to earn points and loot rewards. Before the message was even finished, the entire island erupted. The ground, the forests, the coastline. Ghastly roars surged from all directions, as if something horrific had been unchained underground. Lu Yin didn't waste a single word. He immediately activated the prearranged spatial markers, warping from area to area for reconnaissance. 30 seconds later, he was back. His first command followed swiftly. Zone 5, 3 targets. Xiajin's team, go. Xiajin led her squad through the wooden gate without a moment's hesitation. Lit by the flickering flames of the pre-placed torches, 3 zombies came into view. Their distorted bodies reeked, the stench hitting them before the creatures fully appeared. The moment the zombies sighted humans, they sped up, charging forward with their mangled limbs. Xiajin raised a hand, signaling silently. Taking deep breaths to steady themselves, 3 crossbow users shakily aimed at their respective targets. 3 twangs of strings rang out almost simultaneously. 2 zombies dropped instantly, their heads pierced through, spilling their rotten contents onto the forest floor. The third bolt, however, merely grazed a zombie's neck. The surviving zombie fixed its bloodshot eyes on the girl who had missed, letting out a guttural snarl as it lunged toward her. 10 meters. 2 of the crossbow users froze, their minds blank. Their fumbling hands stalled halfway through reloading. Only the girl who had missed managed to reload her crossbow despite her trembling fingers. But when she fired again, the bolt veered off course. 5 meters. A flash of red. Xiajin struck, her blood-red blade cutting an arc through the air. The zombie was split diagonally in half at the waist, its foul blood and innards spilling everywhere. The thick, nauseating stench immediately grew overpowering, and one girl doubled over, gagging, her face ghostly pale. But they were alive, and they had taken down 2 of the zombies themselves. Xiajin flicked the gore off her blade, her sharp eyes scanning the group before giving a small nod. Barely passable, but you can do better. Her gaze landed on the girl who had missed twice. Stepping closer, Xiajin put a steadying hand on her shaking shoulder. You didn't freeze after failing. That's good. Next time, aim better. The girl looked up, still pale, tears clinging to the corners of her eyes. But after hearing those words, she nodded, firmly this time. This was the most important lesson of the night. Not how to shoot accurately, but how to recover after making a mistake. Did you reload the crossbows? The 4th zombie appeared. This time, Xiajin signaled the crossbowmen to stand by, allowing 2 melee fighters, both young women, to step forward. They exchanged glances, stifled the nausea welling up inside, gripped their weapons tightly, and approached from opposite sides. Meanwhile, Baiyu was leading her team toward Zone 5. 50 meters ahead, 2 zombies were wandering aimlessly. Baiyu's voice remained as calm as ever. Execute Plan A as scheduled. The night was still young. 2 crossbow bolts were fired simultaneously and missed. The tension had taken its toll on their hands, causing the shots to tremble with inaccuracy. At a distance of 50 meters, even the smallest deviation, a margin the size of a pebble, meant the bolts narrowly missed their mark. The two zombies weren't killed. Instead, the noise startled them. Dropping onto all fours, they switched to a sprinting stance. Their speed doubled instantly, and they charged aggressively toward the group. At this velocity, the crossbowmen didn't have enough time to reload. A third bolt was fired, piercing through the shoulder of one zombie. The creature didn't even stagger, it kept coming. The two melee combatants, young women trained as warriors, now gripped their longswords tightly, but their hands trembled. With both zombies charging at them simultaneously, each woman was forced into a one-on-one fight with no room for error. No one in the group uttered a sound. Everyone knew what the next few seconds might mean. Then, Bayu stepped forward. She positioned herself at the very front line, shielding the rest of the team. Emolan almost screamed out in shock. Everyone was well aware that Bayu wasn't a combatant by class or skill. This fragile-looking girl, thin enough to seem like the wind might blow her away, stood squarely in the path of two high-speed, charging zombies. In her hand, she clutched a few inconspicuous stones she'd casually picked up along the way. In the next moment, her wrist flicked almost imperceptibly. The small stones shot forward in a wide, fan-shaped scatter. At such high speed, the charging zombies had no room to dodge. Her ability came into play. Increasing the mass of the stones by hundreds of times in an instant, the kinetic energy spiked exponentially. Thwack, 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 thwack. A series of dense, muted impacts rang out. The two zombies dropped to the ground less than a meter from Bayu's feet, plumes of dust rising faintly into the night air. Just like that, it was over. The team was stunned, rooted in place as silence enveloped them. No one spoke. Hidden in the shadows, Lu Yun had been moments away from intervening himself. His actions froze mid-motion. His calculations had been wrong, or rather, he'd underestimated her. Bayu turned around. Her expression hadn't changed in the slightest. It was as composed and indifferent as before, as if she had just completed a trivial task. Collect the materials. Fall back. The next stretch of operations went more smoothly than anticipated. Each squad took turns venturing out, eliminating threats in specific areas. The points tally for kills climbed steadily, albeit gradually. And then, all sound abruptly ceased. It didn't die out slowly. It was as if the volume had been cut off entirely. The constant, overlapping growls, howls, and roars stopped all at once, as if someone had reached out and choked the life out of the noise. At once, Lu Yun instructed everyone to retreat to the cabin while he stayed outside alone. Utilizing his spatial mobility, he combed the area repeatedly, scanning every area he could perceive. Nothing. The zombies hadn't pulled back, and yet, the island had suddenly fallen into an eerie stillness. "All right, Rabbit, what kind of game are you playing here?" His voice cut through the darkness, directed at the treeline, but no response came. An onslaught of attacks is dangerous, but this kind of eerie, absolute silence was even worse. At least an attack signifies activity. It implies the enemy is expending energy. This silence, however, felt like the enemy was waiting. For what, he didn't know. When this would end, he couldn't guess. When Lu Yun returned to the wooden cabin, he said only 2 sentences. "Rest up. Be ready to fight at any time." Inside, several of the young women were still shaken from the skirmishes earlier. Blood and grime smudged their hands. Some were still trembling slightly. Yet, the fear in their eyes had begun to subside, gradually replaced by the quiet relief that comes after surviving an ordeal. No casualties, only minor injuries, a result that could only be considered miraculous on this island. They closed their eyes, making use of what little time they had to recover. But the suffocating silence continued to blanket the island. Some moments, though, are forever destined to be interrupted. When Lu Yun grabbed the wrist of the soldier about to unfasten her gear, his expression had already shifted. He only uttered, "Something's up," before bolting toward the wooden wall like an arrow loosed from its string. Left behind, Kuyun stood still, biting her lip, first in disappointment, then in worry. For him to show that kind of expression, it could only mean something serious. "Battle squad, form up." His command jolted the entire camp into action. Zombies had appeared simultaneously in all 4 quadrants, 20 of them, advancing in 4 waves. This was no random, scattered encounter in the woods. This was the largest offensive push since the camp had been established. The defensive line promptly collapsed inward, concentrating on the single opening in the wooden barricade. Barely a meter wide, it was the one point on the battlefield they could effectively control. Baiyu led the crossbowmen, forming a firing formation, while Xiajin oversaw the melee team, positioned in a half-circle behind the gap. Everyone knew, holding this meter-wide choke point was the key to protecting the entire group. The first 3 waves of regular zombies barely made it through. Baiyu's crossbowmen maintained a tight, synchronized firing rhythm that overwhelmed the gap. Their kill rate exceeded the zombies' rate of advance. Any that slipped through were swiftly dispatched by the melee team. The exchange was calm, methodical, even, but almost too seamless. Battles that went this smoothly often meant something worse was coming. Liu Yun's spatial awareness jolted with alarm during the 4th wave. Mutants. 5 of them. Unusual speed, stay alert. He didn't even get to finish his warning. In the stormy night, a dark figure suddenly tore through the rain and sped straight toward them. Its limbs twisted unnaturally, moving like some grotesque, broken animal reassembled in the wrong way. The speed was astonishing, leaving behind afterimages. This was on an entirely different level from the previous waves. Baiyu didn't hesitate. She understood the crossbowman couldn't possibly aim at something so fast. So she adjusted her orders immediately. Forget aiming. Cover every gap in the line of defense completely, reduce firing intervals to the minimum limit, and trade precision for sheer density of fire. The instant the crossbow bolts poured out, 3 of the mutated creatures were turned into pincushions on the spot. But the 2 remaining ones, with their eerie flexibility, twisted their way through the rain of arrows and kept charging forward. Xiajin intercepted the first one head-on. Blade clashed with claws, and the impact carved 2 deep furrows into the ground under her feet. The straps of the leather armor on her shoulder snapped under the strain. But she didn't retreat. Her blade traced a half-arc that forced her opponent to recoil. In the same breath, her left leg whipped out with brutal precision, smashing into the back of the creature's knee and breaking it. She followed through with a decisive slash. The fight ended cleanly. On the other side, Shu Qianxue was far more direct. As the mutated creature lunged at her, she didn't dodge. Her fists glowed faintly red as they met the attack head-on. Though its claws scraped deep gashes into her shoulder, all the way to the bone, she didn't falter. Instead, the impact sent the creature reeling off balance. She seized the moment to leap into the air, delivering a devastating kick that shattered its grotesque skull with finality. Black blood and brain matter splattered onto her. She didn't flinch. The entire skirmish, from the moment the creatures breached the line to the last one falling, took less than 10 seconds. Xiajin's bloodied blade hung low, its tip pointing toward the ground. Dark gore dripped down steadily from the grooves. She exhaled softly, adjusting her breathing as she casually tucked the broken leather strap into her collar. The seemingly trivial motion made several nearby girls avert their gazes immediately. She raised an eyebrow, glancing their way. Her blood-red eyes still gleamed with lingering battle frenzy. You want combat skills like these? The group chat channel was buzzing, messages flooding in one after another. We've lost half our team. Please, can anyone help us? Tribe 19 here, we're begging for aid. Take all our supplies, just come and save us. Food, water, even women, whatever you want, just send help. Liu Yin scanned the messages briefly but didn't move. While most other tribes were reeling from heavy casualties and the chat descended into desperate pleas for rescue, Tribe 01's death toll stood firm at 0. Not a single loss. 0. That brutal, silent statistic loomed in the air, carrying more weight than any taunting declaration of strength. Just minutes earlier, the battlefield had been a completely different scene. Qianxue had fought off a mutated creature that tore away most of her clothing in its last moments. Unbothered, she ripped away the tattered scraps, healing her wounds with her destroyer ability even as she smirked at Liu Yun with an arch of her brow. Pretty tough, huh, Liu? The deep gashes in her shoulder were already knitting themselves closed at a pace visible to the naked eye, fresh pink skin forming against a stark canvas of pale white. evoking a strange blend of brutality and defiant pride. Lu Yun's throat shifted as he swallowed, responding with just one word, very. Tonight, he deliberately refrained from stepping in too often, wanting to see how much they could handle themselves. Watching these young women, who just months ago were sipping bubble tea in their college classrooms, now standing firm against monsters, he felt something stir in him. It was a feeling worth more than any points or rewards. But sentimentality aside, he had no intention of risking everything for someone else's problems. Venturing out to save strangers? The numbers wouldn't add up, no matter how you framed it. He was just about to close the interface when a familiar red bunny icon popped up again. Bunny. Hi everyone, the first mini-game is officially over. As a reward for our amazing survivors, the points exchange shop is now open. The wooden shelter exploded into motion. The shop's inventory list unfurled before them. Food, clean water, weapons, blueprints, clothing. The girls crowded around the holographic interface, eyes wide with excitement. Their bloodied fingers moved swiftly over the selections, their voices tinged with a rare sense of childlike glee. Compression rations, purified water, leather armor, tactical boots, even a schematic for a basic water purifier. A priceless find for anyone who knew its potential value in the long haul. This wasn't the end, it was just the first wave. Lu Yun scanned the inventory, already prioritizing which items to snag first. As he mentally sorted through his plans, a faint scent wafted past him. It was Ko Yun, fresh from her bath, draped in a tiger pelt as she leaned in with a wry smile. Do you still have enough energy? That morning, Ko Yun made a life-changing decision. She glanced at the two floating beams of light in front of her, one marked Tactical Commander, and the other carrying four commanding words, Reverse Life and Death. The system was offering her a chance to change her class. It took her only a few seconds to decide. But let's rewind to how it all began that morning. The night before, the survivors had barely made it through the deadly zombie onslaught that lasted till dawn. By the time anyone woke up, it was already midday. Ko Yun had been the first to open her eyes. Realizing something profound, she allowed herself a soft smile and held the person in her arms a little tighter. Thank you, she whispered gently. Thank you for letting me stay true to myself. Just as those words left her lips, the system's notification chimed. Clan leader's benediction activated. Two options materialized before Ko Yun. The glow of the beams caught the attention of the other girls in the room. They scrambled onto the bed, jostling to read the descriptions. One detail immediately raised the pitch of their voices. A unique marker. This wasn't just any class change. It was a singular class, the only one of its kind in the server. Exactly like BEAUTIES, you couldn't choose this unless fate itself handed it to you. Lu Yun's eyes locked onto the words, Rebuild Flesh, Reverse Life, and Death. His heart skipped a beat, but he didn't try to influence her. Instead, he gave Ko Yun a reassuring squeeze on her leg and simply said, Pick what feels right for you. Ko Yun turned to glance at him, then at the girls around them. The fatigue from the brutal fight last night was still etched onto their faces. Lu Yun's shoulder bore a scar that hadn't yet healed. Without hesitation, she made her choice. I choose Holy Healer. The moment the green light merged into her body, everyone in the room froze for a breath. Then, warmth surged outward. It wasn't just any warmth, but a tangible tide of energy that seemed to emanate from deep within her, sweeping across the room. The exhaustion that had clung to them like a heavy fog suddenly lifted, as if snatched away. BEAUTIE's pallid complexion began to regain its color, and the bloodshot streaks in her eyes faded so quickly they could see it happen. Lu Yun's shoulder scar? It knitted itself back together silently, vanishing without a trace. One girl removed her glasses and froze, realizing she could now see everything crystal clear without them. Another found old scars from childhood injuries mysteriously gone. Someone else noticed their complexion glowing. Even teenage acne scars had disappeared. The room was silent for just a couple of seconds before it erupted into a burst of voices and excitement. By the time Ko Yun's class changed, her passive skill had already activated. Within a staggering 50-meter radius, minor wounds healed automatically, energy regenerated consistently, and fatigue melted away, all without her needing to lift a finger. Her active skill? Even more game-changing. With enough resources, Kuyun could pinpoint and heal serious injuries, dispel negative conditions, and fortify her team. This wasn't just a healer's class. It was the backbone of a team's survival and endurance. Even Lu Yun, though he already understood the rarity of unique classes, hadn't anticipated just how incredibly potent this one would be. But it didn't end there. The system soon delivered its next surprise. Clan Leader's Benediction Bonus Reward. Tenfold Duplication Pot. Permanent. Whatever was placed into the pot. And just like that, the text cut off. Yet the name alone carried enough weight to spark a flurry of speculation about its potential. The reality facing Lu Yun and the group was dire. 30 mouths to feed, and their supplies, barely enough to stretch 3 days if everyone ate at half portions. If they let everyone eat freely, they wouldn't even make it through a day and a half. The shortage of food wasn't just a logistical problem, it was a daily risk to their survival. Unlike weapons or strategies that could dispatch zombies, this was a fundamental issue that could silently tip their fragile balance. Some had already started rationing in secret. Nobody spoke of it, but everyone knew just how far they could, or couldn't, stretch what they had left. And now, when they needed it most, the system had handed them a potential game changer. Not food itself, but a pot. A simple earthen pot, unassuming in appearance, with faint decorative markings along its ancient surface. On the rim, an engraving read, "What enters this pot will multiply tenfold." The girls crowded around it, some tracing the engravings with their fingers. To them, it was just another odd trinket. But Lu Yun wasn't fooled. His mind was already racing, piecing together how this worked. The system had been very clear. Place any item into the pot, and it will produce 10 identical copies. Condition, durability, and all properties remain exactly the same. Usable once per day. Resets at midnight. ***. Restrictions were clear too. No living creatures could be duplicated, and extremely rare items were off the table. But for standard supplies, a single item could multiply into 10. Lu Yun explained the pot's function to the group, and the initial silence in the wooden shelter quickly turned into an uproar. Someone worked out the math in an instant. 1 use per day for 30 days, multiplying items tenfold each time. People were so excited, some couldn't help hugging each other. Lu Yun understood their joy, but he forced himself to stay calm. The critical factor here wasn't just what the pot could do. It was how they used its single daily opportunity. Choose incorrectly, and they'd have wasted what could have been a life-saving chance. Lu Yun opened the Points store menu to the food section. His eyes scanned the list: compressed rations, purified water, individual ingredients. Then his gaze fell on the very last entry. Food care package, 70 points. Contents: instant noodles, sausages, canned goods, biscuits, chocolate, various meats, and basic vegetables. Long shelf life, diverse selection, and enough to sustain the group for 2 days. He paused for just a moment, spending 70 points to buy this, then duplicating it for 10, essentially turning 70 points into food worth 700. That was a net gain of 630 points worth of supplies. This wasn't consumption. This was investment. More importantly, solving the food shortage would eliminate the need for risky supply runs. Fewer foraging missions meant fewer encounters with zombies, and less risk to their safety. Physical strain, danger levels, all those invisible costs would shrink significantly. They had 600 points left. Buying 1 food care package would leave them with 530. Duplicate the food care package, Lu Yun said aloud, making the call. He turned to their inventory keeper. Use it all today? Tomorrow, we'll strategize for what's next. The pot remained where it was, waiting to be tested with its first sacrifice. But Lu Yun's mind was already racing ahead to the next steps. Food was just the most urgent challenge, certainly not the only one. A tenfold pot, usable once daily. Rare and unique items couldn't go in, but everyday necessities could. And there were a few assets in their stash more valuable than food, things they could never hope to find again in that dangerous world outside. As the night fell, the group's chat channels buzzed with activity, the survivors spreading news of their fortunate turn of events. For once, amidst the endless tide of challenges, hope was on their side. Our tribe has dwindled down to just me. 12 tribe, in urgent need of a doctor. We'll trade food. Please respond. 23 tribe, willing to merge with any tribe. Please send coordinates. Lu Yun quickly scanned the communication channel, and his heart sank. It had been barely half a day since the second wave of zombie attacks ended, and the channel already looked like this, a grim scene. 2 tribes had disappeared completely, and the remaining ones were either begging for help or negotiating terms for merging. In the span of one night, 3 of the original 100 tribes were gone. He switched over to the leaderboard. Current surviving tribes, 97/100. 01 tribe, Lu Yun 600 points. 03 tribe, 320 points. 29 tribe, 280 points. He scrolled down the rankings. His tribe was at the very top, with nearly double the points of the second-ranked tribe. Their lead wasn't due to luck. It was because they had one thing most of the other tribes didn't: the magical replication bowl. From inside the wooden hut came the sound of the girls inventorying supplies. The large food package they had purchased for 70 points had been placed into the replication bowl, and now there were 10 of them. Instant noodles, sausage, canned goods, biscuits, chocolate. Every single package was an exact duplicate, down to the folds in the packaging. Based on their current consumption, these supplies could last about 20 days. Food was no longer a pressing issue. With food to eat, a healer on hand, and the replication bowl, the tension in the girls' demeanor finally loosened slightly. For the first time, there was a genuine sense of relief in their voices. Lu Yun didn't join them in examining the canned goods. He stood by the window, gazing out at the jungle in the distance. It was eerily quiet outside, so quiet that it felt unsettling. Lu Yun knew this calm wouldn't last long. If the second wave had been enough to wipe out 2 tribes, the third wave of zombie attacks would likely escalate beyond anything they had faced so far. They needed to reinforce their walls, keep training the melee squad, and stockpile building materials. His mind was a storm of ideas for what to do next. But before any of that, there was something else he had noticed. 03 tribe had privately sent coordinates to those seeking help in the communication channel. With 600 points compared to their 320, Lu Yun's tribe was currently the strongest on the island. But that also made them the most obvious target. While others were begging for help, people were observing him. This situation was bound to shift sooner or later. Out of the 97 tribes listed on the leaderboard, how many were truly intact and functional? The jungle outside his window, shadowy and ominous, offered no answers. But the new dynamics of Chapter 34 were quietly kicking into gear. When the rabbit notification popped up, the chatter inside the wooden hut abruptly stopped. Good news. Tribes that survived the first wave of zombies would each receive an additional 50 points. Bad news. The countdown to the second wave of zombie attacks had reached 18 hours. And more importantly, there was a final line in the notification, a game changer. 3 surviving tribes from a nearby island, due to their dwindling populations, would be forcibly relocated to this region. New arrivals were coming, but whether they'd be assets or liabilities was an open question. And the second wave of zombies? Just the phrase, more thrilling, in the notice was enough to weigh on their minds. Lu Yun didn't have the luxury of worrying about all the details. He still had an inbox overflowing with unread messages, 99 plus private messages, all clamoring for his attention. The messages came from tribes all across the leaderboard. Some were proposing alliances, while others were willing to become vassals in exchange for protection. Some offered architectural blueprints as bargaining chips. And then there were a few different ones. A handful included enticing photographs and vague but suggestive language, offering companionship and charm as their currency. Flight attendants, models, women boasting good looks and nurturing personalities. It hadn't even been 3 days since the apocalypse began, and some people were already laying all their cards on the table. Lu Yun scrolled through expressionlessly. The girls in his tribe were buzzing with conversation over it, but he didn't join in. For now, holding the top spot on the leaderboard was a liability as much as an achievement. It made him a target, and he doubted anything in these private messages was truly worth responding to. In the chaos of survival, humanity's darker complexities could rival the zombie menace itself. And then, Chun Xiaolin's voice broke through, a little off, tinged with something unsteady. "I got a message," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "From someone I know." Chun Xiaolin wasn't a core member of their tribe, so no one would bypass Lu Yun to contact her, unless the sender knew her personally, not just her affiliation with the tribe. She says her name is Sofia Ivanova. Chen Xiaolin took a deep breath. She's a figure skater from Russia. We stayed in the same hotel during a training camp in Moscow. We talked a few times. She speaks Chinese and is really smart. Silver hair, ice blue eyes, and the nickname Ice Queen. Xu Qianxue immediately recognized the name. This was someone who had been featured in sports news before. But Sophia's message wasn't a casual hello. It was a cry for help. Chen Xiaolin read the private message aloud. Sophia explained that she had seen Chen Xiaolin's name on the leaderboard. Her sports academy tribe currently had 28 people left. During the first wave of zombies, their original leader had died while scavenging for supplies. The deputy leader, a man named Andre, had since taken over. Food and water were already scarce, and Andre had implemented a brutal survival policy. Male members who supported him were prioritized for resources. The women? They were given half a biscuit and a few sips of water each day. Chen Xiaolin stopped reading, her face pale. 28 people. A tribe already fracturing internally. A leader consolidating power by controlling resources. And women systematically being denied the basics needed for survival. All of this, with just 18 hours left until the second wave of zombies. Sophia appeared on their screen, huddled in the corner of a discarded storage tent, her back propped against a pile of dried grass. Strands of her silver hair clung to her sweat-streaked face. Her lips were cracked, dark rings underlined her eyes, and her gaze kept darting anxiously off-frame, not out of nerves, but with the hypervigilance of someone ready to flee at a moment's notice. Her plea was clear, but the situation she described was anything but simple. The first thing Andre did after taking over was slash the food rations for women by half, justifying it with, "They're weaker in combat. It's a waste to feed them too much." Yesterday, he went even further. Women were allowed only half a biscuit and 2 sips of water a day. Someone tried to protest. Anna, a gymnast, spoke up but was slapped across the face on the spot and locked up for half the day. After that, no one dared to say another word. The latest news was even more chilling. Andre had begun negotiating with nearby tribes to trade unattractive women for supplies. The log cabin was silent. Xia Jin squeezed out 2 words through clenched teeth, "Savage beast." That was all she said. Any more would have been pointless. Words couldn't express the depth of their rage. Lu Yin stared calmly at the holographic screen displaying Sophia. "Has anyone protested?" he asked. Sophia froze for a moment, clearly unprepared to hear a man's voice. She regarded him cautiously through the lens. Lu Yun wasted no time, introducing himself, "Leader of this camp. Answer my question." Sophia pressed her cracked lips together before speaking. Anna protested, she explained, and she was beaten. And then, nothing more. "How many women are there? How many are on your side?" Lu Yin continued. 10. But, Sophia gave a bitter smile. Not all of them want to leave. Some think surviving is enough. Some have even started cozying up to Andre for just a bit more food. "The only ones I can take with me are Anna and Katia. They'd rather die than be turned into trade goods like me." Lu Yin was quiet for a few seconds. "I can take you in, but there are conditions," he eventually said. Sophia's eyes lit up. "Name them." "First, prove your value. We don't support freeloaders. You're an athlete. Put that physical strength to good use. What exactly you'll do, we'll talk about when you get here. Second, prove your loyalty." His tone was cold, unyielding. "How do I know this isn't a trap set by Andre? How do I know you're not spies? Or won't betray us when it matters most?" Sophia paled slightly, but didn't back down. "What do you want us to do to prove ourselves? Steal a batch of food from your camp and bring it with you." The women in the room sat in stunned silence for a moment. "There are always guards watching the food, and there are only 3 of us," Sophia said hesitantly. Lu Yin didn't answer. Those were his terms. Not a negotiation. A test. Whether they could pull it off was up to them. 3 hours. The timer began counting down the second Sophia shut off the interface. Leaning against the tree trunk, she listened to the uproar pouring from the cabin. Andre and his crew were celebrating something. The smell of cheap alcohol wafted into the night air. It wasn't especially strong, but enough to dull their senses. Enough to make the guards drowsy. She realized it immediately. This was her chance. The negotiation was over, but it hadn't been easy. That top-ranked camp leader had laid out 3 non-negotiable conditions. No trackers, submit to a search upon arrival, and follow their rules once taken in. where everyone fought and everyone contributed. After listing these, he paused and added one more remark. No men or women here, just fighters and non-fighters. At the time, Sophia had sworn, if it means I can get out of that hell, I'll do anything. And she had meant it. But there was one thing he hadn't mentioned that she figured out herself. Showing up empty-handed wasn't going to cut it. She needed to bring something with her, food. The more, the better. The problem was that it was all locked in a tent guarded by Andre's men. By the time Anna and Katia arrived, Sophia had already pieced together her plan. Anna was 17, the youngest gymnast, her wide eyes now filled with terror. Katia was 18 and bore fresh scars on her face from being shoved to the ground yesterday for trying to snag an extra biscuit. Sophia explained the full plan and waited for their reactions. Anna was the first to speak. It's too dangerous. Sophia didn't argue but asked her only one question. Did you forget the bruises on Lisa's neck when she came back this morning? Anna's face went pale. She fell silent. Katia spoke up first. I'll do it. Staying here's just a slower death. Anna clenched her fists, her body trembling. But finally, she nodded. It was over an hour later before the camp finally quieted down. The laughter from Andre's tent grew raspy and slurred. The two guards by the supply tent slouched against wooden posts, their heads lolling forward. Their sticks had already fallen to the ground. The three of them lay motionless in the bushes, waiting another 20 minutes. Now, Sophia whispered. Like shadows, they crept toward the tent, hugging the earth. The flap covering the entrance hung loosely, barely shielding the inside. Stacked within were all the camp's food supplies, packs of compressed biscuits, jerked meat, and half a bucket of murky water. Katia stayed outside to keep watch while Sophia and Anna slipped in. In less than 2 minutes, their bags were full. As they were about to leave, Katia's voice came from outside, strained and low. Someone's coming. Sophia yanked Anna, and the two of them rolled into a corner, burying themselves under a pile of animal hides. The tent flap lifted. Alcohol stench hit first, followed by a shadow swaying unsteadily into the tent. The man hiccuped, muttering to himself as he groped around. His hand fumbled over the hides, mere inches from Sophia. She held her breath, her hand quietly slipping to the small knife at her waist. It was a knife she'd taken from a zombie long ago. An arrow whizzed through the darkness, a sharp sound as it clattered into a tree trunk ahead. Sophia didn't stop. None of them did. That night, the three of them slipped through a broken section of fence behind Andre's camp, hauling away 9 packs of compressed biscuits and 15 strips of jerky. By the time the alarm was raised, they'd barely made it 50 meters. Andre's furious curses rang out behind them, as if the entire camp had come alive. Sophia led them through the most treacherous terrain, thickets, low bushes, and rocky ground, choosing paths their pursuers wouldn't dare to follow. Katia supported a wounded Anna, whose right leg was bleeding. Yet Anna gritted her teeth and stayed silent. Gradually, the sounds of pursuit began to fade, and devoid of hostility, they disappeared into the shadows. The pursuers had given up, or maybe just temporarily halted their chase. But this situation wasn't one to breathe a sigh of relief over. The problem they now faced was far harder to unravel than a deadly pursuit. The rendezvous point was predetermined, a clearing near a stream, nestled within a forest. They arrived, but Lu Yun and his group were nowhere to be seen. The three women stood back to back in the center of the clearing. Sophia did a quick inventory of their food rations, while Katia calculated that it might last them a week. But none of them were truly thinking about food. They were waiting for a figure to emerge from the woods, the figure they had risked their lives for. The reason they gambled everything for. The reason they needed to see made real. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. They're not coming, are they? Anna's voice cracked, tears welling up as she spoke. Sophia said, just wait a little longer. But even she didn't believe her own words. The possibility had been lurking in the back of her mind all along, that Lu Yun had just been using them, leading them into a trap, that it was all a ruse, and Andre's men would storm out of the trees at any moment. Her hand clutched the small knife she carried, trembling, not from the cold, but from fear. 30 meters beyond the clearing, hidden within the dense forest, Lu Yun had been perched silently on a high tree branch for 15 minutes. Xia Jin sat on a neighboring branch, her blood-red blade resting across her knees, while Qin Xiaolin lay prone amidst the bushes on the ground. Her crossbow was already loaded, though the arrow wasn't aimed at the trio in the clearing, but at the forest behind them. They had confirmed the area, no ambushes within a 500-meter radius. Lu Yun didn't immediately walk out. Instead, he continued to observe. He watched Sophia and the others form a tight back-to-back defensive posture. He watched as they whispered urgently to one another while dividing what little food they had. And he watched how, as every agonizing minute ticked past, despair slowly began to etch itself across their faces. That kind of despair wasn't easy to fake. Not to this degree. When tears started rolling down Anna's cheeks, Lu Yun leapt down from the tree. His landing made no noise. Gesturing to Xia Jin, he signaled her to flank the other side of the clearing. Qin Xiaolin stayed in position, her crossbow's aim unwavering. Then, Lu Yun stepped out of the forest into the moonlight. Sophia blinked. For a moment, she thought she was hallucinating. The three women had fled through danger, injuries from their pursuers marring their bodies. Clutching their meager supplies, all for a rendezvous they weren't even sure was worth trusting. And now, they saw him. It likely never crossed Sophia's mind that such a person could still exist in this world. Clean, upright, his combat gear intact, with actual stitching and functional pockets. Nothing like the crude animal hides or ragged rags people usually scrape together. Under the pale moonlight, his face was striking, so sharply defined, so unnaturally composed, it felt surreal. His aura radiated calm authority, something that caught them entirely off guard. Anna's legs still throbbed with pain, but she momentarily forgot all about it. He was nothing like the men they had grown accustomed to in Andre's tribe, men who were rough, dirty, and treated women like property. Standing before them was a stark contrast they didn't even have the words to describe. Sophia? His voice broke the silence, steady, with a hint of warmth that was almost magnetic. Sophia was stunned for a moment before snapping out of it. She placed the bundle she carried on the ground and opened it. 9 compressed biscuits and 15 pieces of jerky, pitifully small portions under the glow of the moonlight. She began to explain, hurriedly, that food had been tightly guarded, that they had done everything they could. Enough. He cut her off mid-sentence. I'm not concerned about how much food you managed to bring. What I wanted to see was your resolve. He paused, then nodded. And you've proven yourselves. The 3 women exhaled in unison. But that relief lasted only a moment. As agreed, you'll need to undergo inspection, he stated. Tension immediately surged back into their expressions. Just at that moment, a figure stepped out of the woods and joined Lu Yun. Then Sophia saw her face. Lin, her voice faltered, leaving behind just that single syllable. Her ice-blue eyes shimmered under the moonlight, filled with unshed tears. Qin Xiaolin's hand trembled, causing her crossbow to dip slightly. It's me, she said softly, her voice unsteady. Sophia? It's really me. The 2 women stared at each other across a few small steps, their eyes speaking volumes. 3 years of apocalyptic survival, fleeing, and being torn apart. All of it distilled into that singular moment of connection. It was Lu Yun's voice that brought them back to reality. Inspection. Qin Xiaolin bit her lip, glancing at Sophia. Her gaze carried affection, worry, and the unwavering resolve of someone just following orders. Finally, she nodded, her eyes silently urging Sophia to trust her. Believe me. Sophia took a deep breath, met her gaze, and said, All right. The inspection was conducted by Qin Xiaolin and Xia Jin. Their movements were precise and gentle. Every time Qin Xiaolin's fingers lingered over a fresh wound or an old scar on Sophia's body, there was the faintest hesitation. There were neither hidden weapons nor trackers, nor anything suspicious. Satisfied, Lu Yun retrieved 3 fur-lined coats from his pack and handed them over. Put these on and follow me. Finally, they were being brought in. But the truly harrowing part of the journey was just beginning. They walked for nearly half an hour before noticing a distant glow ahead. It wasn't the dim, flickering orange of a survivalist campfire. It was the steady brilliance of torchlight and the sound of laughter. Genuine laughter. Sophia hadn't realized until that moment how much time had passed since she last heard such a sound. Andre's tribe had all but erased any memory of it from her mind. When the wooden gate was pulled open, she was momentarily stunned. Sturdy wooden homes. Piles of food. Clean, drinking water. a place to bathe. Her gaze drifted instinctively to the biscuits and dried meat she held tightly to her chest, the precious loot they had risked everything for. Now, sitting in her hands, they seemed pitiful, like the pennies clutched by a beggar. Ridiculous, yet heartbreaking. Yet above all else, she felt grateful. Lu Yun had refrained from taking their supplies. Before bringing them here, he had said just one thing. That was what you risked your lives for. Keep it. For a second, Sophia had been dumbfounded. Among all the men she had met in her life, not one had ever said something like that. Inside, the women of the settlement had already noticed the newcomers. Their curious gazes swept over Sophia and her group. Filled with curiosity, a bit of examination, some friendliness, and absolutely no malice. There was something missing, something Sophia usually expected to see: vigilance and greed. A girl with still damp hair, wrapped casually in a towel, came bounding over without a care about her appearance. Grinning, she gave the trio a bold once-over and exclaimed, "Not bad at all." Then the rest of the inhabitants of the cabin gathered around with curious enthusiasm. Voices chimed in from all sides, remarking on Sophia's silver hair, her unusual eye color, and the hardships they imagined she'd endured. Sophia stood there, rooted in place, unsure how to respond. It had been so long since she'd been acknowledged and treated as simply human. Lu Yun, however, didn't let the group linger in this camaraderie for long. He called over two of the girls and, in front of Sophia and her companions, issued instructions. Until their safety was confirmed, the trio's activities would be restricted to a corner of the cabin, and they were to be monitored. Sophia bit her lip but said nothing. When you're relying on the goodwill of strangers, she thought to herself, it was only natural to accept being under scrutiny. At least Lu Yun hadn't made it sound like a punishment or any form of humiliation. Then came the water. Lu Yun handed someone a few leaves and directed them to a silvery metal container. A short while later, Chen Xiaolin passed Sophia a cup filled with clear liquid. Sophia stared at it for a long time. This wasn't the murky stream water she was used to, or the rainwater tinged with a metallic, earthy taste. This was clean, clear water, something that looked safe to drink without hesitation. Next to her, Katia whispered, almost in disbelief, "Is this fresh water?" Sophia cautiously sipped it. Cool, sweet, and utterly pure, it lacked the faintest trace of any unpleasantness. After Anna finished her cup, she hesitated briefly and then nervously asked if there was any chance she could have more. Her tentative tone betrayed years of conditioning, a habit ingrained during her time under Andre. Asking for anything usually came with a cost. Chen Xiaolin waved her hand dismissively and said, "Take as much as you want. Drink all you need." Seriously, all three of them stared at her, wide-eyed, as if they'd misheard. Sophia couldn't fully process what she was feeling in that moment. In the place they'd come from, water was strictly rationed, 2 sips a day at best, meticulously filtered before being consumed. But here, the message was clear: there was no limit. Katia and Anna quickly reached out for refills, their eyes brimming with emotion as they exchanged a glance. Chen Xiaolin, noticing their reactions, said nothing more. Instead, she stepped forward and hugged Sophia gently, whispering, "You're safe now. It's all over." A single tear rolled down Sophia's cheek, and she couldn't stop it. After drinking their fill, the three of them returned to the corner they'd been assigned. Sitting down, they placed their meager stash, several stolen biscuits and strips of dried meat, on their laps. Around them, the cabin was brimming with food supplies. They sat in silence for what felt like an eternity. This time, they'd made the right choice. But even with water in their bellies and food within reach, they were still strangers in this place. Trust hadn't been established. Their identities hadn't been confirmed. Though Lu Yun had given them water and coats and had left behind food for them, it was still a far cry from certainty. What really was this place? How far could they go here? What were Lu Yun's true priorities? Sophia had no answers. 9 compressed biscuits. 15 strips of dried meat. In Andre's tribe, such items would have been fought over like treasure, hard currency in a cruel economy of survival. Yet here, as Sophia bit into the jerky, its familiar taste suddenly turned strange in her mouth. Across the room, she could see the girls of this cabin, sharing cans of luncheon meat and roasting fresh vegetables and chunks of meat over a fireplace. The aroma of roasting meat blended with the gentle freshness of vegetables, wafting past them in waves. Sophia chewed her jerky. It felt dry and flavorless, like gnawing on an old tree branch. And this wasn't even the biggest shock. The real jolt came when she glanced at the corner of the cabin and saw the white bathtub. They had noticed it earlier when approaching this place, a full bathtub on what was essentially a wild, survivalistic island. Sure, it had seemed odd, but they'd assumed it was some sort of joke or perhaps repurposed for storage. After all, on an island like this, fresh water was the rarest, most precious thing. Who in their right mind would waste drinkable water for a bath? Then a tall girl casually got up, stretched, and said, "I'm gonna rinse off a bit." She strolled over to the tub, pressed a button, and water poured from the shower head. Hot water. Steam rose visibly from the flow. Katia gasped audibly and immediately slapped a hand over her mouth. Seconds later, another girl joined the first, laughing as they stepped into the shower together. They let the hot water cascade over their hair and shoulders, taking turns scrubbing each other's backs. Their sighs of satisfaction echoed softly. Droplets glimmered as they rolled off skin, catching the flickering firelight in the room. Anna's voice quivered as she whispered, "That's drinkable water. They're just using it like this?" Before long, another girl walked up to the tub, then a fourth. Sophia watched in silence, unsure what to think anymore. But even that was just the beginning. What shattered the trio's understanding of the world completely came next. The chiefs turned for a bath. Someone said the words casually, almost like an afterthought. The once busy girls around the cabin immediately perked up. Heads turned toward the bathtub in unison, unmasked and without any attempt to hide their interest. Lu Yun walked over, calm and unbothered, shrugged off his fur-lined coat, and turned on the shower. Hot water poured over his shoulders, soaking him from head to toe. The girls kept watching unabashedly, perfectly comfortable with their behavior. Some rested their chins on their hands or whispered amongst themselves, their eyes glinting with playful amusement. A particularly bold girl, Shu Qianxue, even let out a whistle and teased him. "Hey Lu, need someone to scrub your back?" "Don't start," Lu Yun replied with a laugh, shaking his head, but the humor in his voice only encouraged the rest to laugh louder. Sophia stood frozen, her thoughts tangled and caught. Her gaze flicked back and forth between the two scenarios she'd just witnessed. When women used the shower, Lu Yun glanced their way briefly, then turned away and resumed his conversation with Xia Jin, completely indifferent. When he used the shower, the girls openly stared, unashamed, eyes full of unbridled admiration. Katia turned bright red, as if her cheeks might catch fire, yet for all her embarrassment, she couldn't seem to look away. Anna's mouth hung open, unable to form coherent words. And Sophia, she stared at the man standing under the stream of hot water, something shifting subtly yet profoundly within her. She was silent for a moment, then made up her mind. "Lin," she whispered, almost inaudibly. Qin Xiaolin turned to look at her. "Look at her. Can I take a shower?" Sophia bit her lip. Anna and Katia lifted their heads at the same time, their eyes betraying the same longing. Qin Xiaolin froze for a moment. Sophia asking about the shower. It was a more complicated matter than she'd anticipated. Qin Xiaolin went to check with Lu Yun. The two exchanged a few hushed words before Lu Yun glanced over and gave a small nod. He agreed, but there was a catch. He insisted on being present. It was the rule. Qin Xiaolin relayed this back to them, adding, "I'll stay with you too," as if to offer some extra reassurance. For a brief moment, the three women exchanged glances. They didn't speak, but they knew what the others were thinking. The temptation was undeniable. Warm water, feeling clean, shedding the animal skins that had clung to their bodies for who knows how long. Just standing there and feeling human, even for a moment. These were luxuries that felt almost surreal in the apocalypse. But the cost was real, too, stripping down completely in front of a strange man. Sophia hesitated for only a few seconds before making her decision. She remembered not long ago when Lu Yun had bathed in full view of everyone. The tribal girls had watched openly, and Lu Yun had acted as if nothing was unusual. That was how things worked here. It wasn't about crossing a line. It was just the way of life. Back then, they'd all watched too. The logic of survival in this world was vastly different from the world she once knew. If she had chosen this tribe, She would need to accept its rules. "I'll go first," Sophia said. The instant the warm water touched her skin, she almost let out a sigh. The temperature was perfect, not scalding but just enough to chase away the cold and exhaustion that had built up inside her body for so long. She washed carefully and meticulously, with the same discipline she used to care for herself during competition seasons. But her thoughts began to drift. She recalled Lu Yun's physique. Not that she meant to, but the image appeared naturally in her mind. His build wasn't the result of gym equipment or machines, but was forged by the raw trials of survival. There was a primal, no-nonsense strength to it, power that had been used and proven in reality.